Jasmine knew the camera was hers because Cody had placed it on the floor beside her chair. Everything else sat on the long conference table in neat rows. Robert Bowman's house keys were in a white envelope. The savings statements were clipped together. 3 newer cameras, 2 lenses, a laptop, and a set of studio lights had been listed as business equipment. Cody kept touching that page as if somebody might take it from him. The old news camera didn't even make the table. It rested against Jasmine's ankle inside a cracked brown case. One buckle was missing. Gray tape covered the handle, and someone had tied the loose end with green garden wire. An appraisal sticker on the case read $35. Melissa Bowman looked across the table and said, "You don't have to keep that." Jasmine put one hand on the case. Melissa was Robert's daughter and Jasmine's aunt. She had spent most of the morning sorting papers into piles marked keep, sell, and discard. She wore her reading glasses on a chain and kept checking the time. Robert had been buried 4 days earlier. Melissa had already accepted an offer on his house. "The appraiser said it's obsolete," she continued. "There's no market for it. We could add it to the electronics pickup." "It isn't electronic waste," Jasmine said. Cody glanced down from his phone. He was Melissa's grown son, 3 years older than Jasmine, and he ran a small media business from a rented office near the highway. He filmed real estate tours, insurance inspections, and promotional videos for restaurants. Robert's newer equipment would save him several $1,000s. "That thing shoots film," Cody said. "Actual film. You can't even plug it into anything. I know what it shoots. Then you know I'm right." Jasmine leaned down and lifted the case onto her lap. Dust came off on her black trousers. Melissa noticed but said nothing. The probate clerk at the end of the table cleared her throat. She was there to record receipt of the distributed property, not to referee the family. She turned a page and read the final item in a patient voice. The camera, its contents, and Robert Bowman's associated image rights pass to Jasmine Bowman under the signed assignment incorporated into the decree. Cody looked up again. "Image rights to what?" The clerk checked the page. "Anything associated with the camera." "There's nothing in it," Melissa said quickly. Robert hadn't used it in years. The clerk gave a small shrug. "I can only tell you what the document says." Jasmine already knew the wording. Robert had shown her the assignment the previous autumn, after making her sit at his kitchen table while he found a pen that worked. He had been 80 years old then. His hands shook when he was tired, though he disliked anyone noticing. "It's too specific," Jasmine had told him. "That's usually what paperwork is for. What contents? Whatever belongs with it." She had waited for more. Robert had capped the pen and slid the paper aside. "And what image rights? The ones that are mine to give." He wouldn't answer after that. When Jasmine pressed him, he asked whether her car still made a clicking sound on cold mornings. That was Robert's way of ending a conversation. He changed the subject to something practical and acted as if the first subject had never existed. Now he was gone, and the strange wording remained. Cody reached for the case. "Let me see it." Jasmine moved it out of his reach. "You said it was junk. I said it was obsolete. That's different. It was on the floor." "Because the case is filthy." Melissa removed her glasses. "Can we please finish without turning this into something?" Jasmine almost laughed. Melissa had turned the entire week into a schedule. The funeral flowers had barely begun to wilt when she called the real estate agent. Robert's dishes were packed before his obituary appeared in the newspaper. His coats had gone to a charity shop that morning, including the canvas one Jasmine had seen him wear through every Kansas winter since she was 18. Melissa wanted the estate settled because settled things could be sold. Cody wanted anything with a recognizable brand name. Neither of them wanted the camera until the clerk read that one peculiar sentence. Jasmine hadn't wanted a fight. She had come expecting the house to go to Melissa. She knew Cody would receive the equipment. Robert had explained those choices without apologizing for them. Melissa had managed his medical bills during the last year. Cody had helped digitize some of his recent interviews. The savings would cover debts, funeral costs, and what remained would pass to Melissa. The camera was the only thing Robert had named for Jasmine. That should have made it easier. Instead, its low value seemed to embarrass everyone but her. Cody leaned back. "Fine. Keep it. I was trying to save you the trouble." "What trouble?" "Finding somebody who still knows what it is." Grandpa knew. The room went quiet. Cody's mouth tightened. He had loved Robert in a way that required Robert to be useful. Melissa had loved her father too, though she preferred love with clean receipts and agreed deadlines. Neither of them believed Jasmine's grief was larger than theirs. Jasmine didn't believe that either. Grief didn't become fair just because everybody had some. Still, Robert had raised her for 10 years. When Jasmine was orphaned at 18, she arrived at his house with 2 suitcases and a grocery bag full of documents. She expected to stay for a week. Robert cleared a bedroom, bought a second towel, and never once asked when she planned to leave. He wasn't tender in obvious ways. He burned grilled cheese sandwiches and forgot birthdays unless they were written on the wall calendar. But he waited awake when she worked late. He taught her to change a tire, balance a bank statement, and hold a camera steady without locking her knees. People know when you're looking down on them, he once told her. The lens doesn't hide it. That lesson was worth more to Jasmine than the house. She just hadn't expected it to come inside a case worth $35. The clerk pushed a receipt toward her. Jasmine signed beneath the camera description. Cody signed for the modern equipment. Melissa signed for the remaining property. The house keys disappeared into her handbag. That completes distribution, the clerk said. Melissa exhaled as if she had been holding her breath since the funeral. They carried the valuable items outside first. Cody backed his van close to the building, then lowered the rear doors. Jasmine watched him pack Robert's digital cameras between folded furniture blankets. He handled them carefully. Each one had been cleaned, tagged, and priced. The old camera remained in Jasmine's arms. Melissa came out with the house envelope and stood beside her car. "There are still a few boxes at the house," she said. "Most are papers. If you want any photographs, come by before Thursday." "What happens Thursday?" "The cleanout crew starts." "You hired them already?" "I can't leave the house sitting. Insurance, utilities, taxes, all of it keeps running. Grandpa's been gone 4 days." Melissa's face changed, but only for a moment, and none of those bills stopped when he did. Jasmine looked down at the taped handle. She understood bills. Her savings had been shrinking for months because she had reduced her work hours to drive Robert to appointments. Melissa knew that, though they had never discussed it directly. "I'll come tomorrow," Jasmine said. "Come early. I have a meeting at noon." Cody closed the van doors. "If you find Grandpa's press credentials, put them aside for me." "Why? I might frame them for the office." Jasmine stared at him. "What?" he said. "He was the reason I got into media." Robert had complained that Cody called advertising media, but Jasmine kept that to herself. "If I find them, I'll let you know." Cody nodded, satisfied by the part he chose to hear. Then he pointed at her case. "Don't force any switches. The grease is probably solid. You'll strip something." It was the first useful thing he had said all morning. Jasmine set the case in the passenger seat of her hatchback and fastened the seatbelt around it. Cody saw her do it and smiled. "You know it can't feel the bumps." "I know." She shut the door. Her apartment was only 12 minutes away, above a laundromat on Commercial Street. Robert disliked the stairs and always arrived breathing harder than he admitted. He would sit at her small kitchen table until his face returned to its normal color, then complain that the coffee was weak. The apartment felt wrong without the possibility of his knock. Jasmine placed the case on the table. She took off her funeral clothes, changed into jeans and Robert's old blue work shirt, then opened both windows. Warm air carried up the smell of detergent from downstairs. She wiped the case with a damp cloth. Under the dust were scratches from decades of being loaded into station wagons, news vans, and pickup trucks. One corner had a dark stain Robert once claimed came from a county fair pie contest. Jasmine suspected there had been more to the story because he smiled whenever she asked. The surviving buckle fought her. She pressed it twice before it released. Inside lay the camera wrapped in yellowed cotton. Its metal body was heavier than she remembered. The black covering had lifted near the base. A viewfinder extended from one side, and the lens turret held 3 lenses with cloudy caps. Robert's initials were scratched beneath the handle. Jasmine ran her thumb over them. She had held this camera once, years ago, while Robert showed her how its weight settled against the shoulder. He had stood behind her in the backyard, correcting her grip while she aimed at the clothesline. "Don't chase every movement," he said. "Decide what matters and stay with it." At the time, Jasmine thought he was talking about filming. She lifted the camera now and felt something shift inside. Not a loose screw. This movement was slower and heavier, followed by a soft stop. Jasmine set it down. Cody had said not to force anything. She could hear Robert giving the same warning in a less polite voice. The winding mechanism on the side moved less than an inch before resisting. The footage counter had stopped above 0, though the cloudy cover made the exact mark hard to read. She found a folded instruction sheet under the cotton lining. Robert's handwriting covered both margins. Most notes were ordinary maintenance reminders. Oil sparingly, clean gate after every reel, never store under tension. Near the bottom, he had drawn a small box around 3 words. Do not open. Jasmine looked at the camera again. The film chamber door was on the side. Its latch bore a thin stripe of faded red wax, pressed flat with the edge of a thumbnail. Robert used marks like that to show whether a compartment had been opened after servicing. Jasmine had seen them on his tool cases and once on the fuse box after an electrician left. She didn't touch the latch. Instead, she took out her phone and searched for Isaac Wagner. Robert used to mention him whenever a camera made a noise it shouldn't. Isaac kept a repair shop in a narrow brick building near the railroad tracks. The listed number rang 5 times before a man answered. Wagner Camera. Is this Isaac? Depends who needs him. My name is Jasmine Bowman. The silence on the line sharpened. Robert's Jasmine? She gripped the phone more tightly. Yes, I heard about him. I'm sorry. Thank you. Isaac waited. He knew Robert well enough not to fill silence merely because it appeared. I have his old news camera, Jasmine said. The 16mm one. You have it? My grandfather left it to me. Another pause followed, different from the first. Where has it been? In its case, I think. The transport won't move, and there's a warning not to open the side. Did you? No. Good. The force in that one word made her sit straighter. Isaac asked whether the red seal was intact. Jasmine leaned close and checked before answering. It is. Don't wind it, don't run it. Keep it away from heat. What's inside? I can't tell you over the phone. You maintained it. I did. Then you must know why Grandpa sealed it. Isaac breathed out slowly. I know Robert didn't mark doors for decoration. That's not an answer. No, it isn't. Jasmine heard a drawer open on his end, followed by the scrape of something moved across a counter. Bring it tomorrow morning, he said. Keep the case level. How much will it cost? I haven't seen the problem. I need some idea. So do I. Jasmine glanced at the appraisal sticker lying beside the camera. $35 for the one possession nobody else valued. Her bank account held enough for rent, groceries, and a little breathing room. It did not hold enough for a sentimental repair, with no practical use. Yet Robert had written, "Do not open," and someone had tried very hard to make his final instructions sound worthless. What time? She asked. 8. I'll be there. She ended the call, folded the cotton over the camera, and fastened the surviving buckle. Then she peeled off the appraisal sticker, carried the case away from the sunny window, and set it level beneath her kitchen table. At 7:45 the next morning, Jasmine carried the case down the back stairs and placed it level in her car. Isaac's shop stood between a tire warehouse and a boarded feed store. The front window displayed 3 cameras older than Jasmine, a brass lamp, and a handwritten sign that said, "Repairs by appointment." She tried the door at 8 exactly. It opened before she could knock. Isaac had silver hair cut close around his ears and a gray mustache that looked recently trimmed. A magnifying lens hung from a cord around his neck. He didn't offer his hand. He looked at the case instead. You kept it level? Yes. Come in. The shop smelled of machine oil, old leather, and coffee. Narrow drawers covered one wall from floor to ceiling. Each had a paper label written in the same square handwriting. Springs, rollers, screws, washers. Parts were sorted by size and purpose, not by how much anyone might pay for them. Isaac cleared a green cloth from his workbench. Set it there. Jasmine placed the case down gently. Isaac examined the garden wire around the handle before releasing the buckle. Robert did this? I think so. He hated throwing away a case. He hated throwing away anything. No, he threw away plenty. He just wanted to be the one who decided when it was finished. Isaac folded back the cotton. He didn't lift the camera immediately. His eyes moved over the body, the viewfinder, and the 3 lenses. Then he saw the red seal. His mouth settled into a straight line. You were right to call. Why? Because this wasn't put away carelessly. He turned the case without tilting it. Jasmine watched every movement. Can you tell whether something's broken? Several things are probably broken. That isn't the same as finished. It was a plain sentence, but it loosened something in her chest. Since the funeral, everyone had spoken about Robert's possessions as if their only two conditions were saleable or useless. Isaac recognized a third condition. Something could need work. He lifted the camera by its handle and supported the base with his other hand. He tested the winding key with 2 fingers. It moved a little, then stopped. "Don't try that again," he said. "I only did it once. That may be one time too many." Jasmine winced. Isaac glanced at her. "I'm talking about the mechanism, not accusing you of murder." "I know. You looked like I'd accused you." He set the camera on a padded cradle. With a small flashlight, he examined the seam around the film chamber. He didn't touch the latch. "Is the seal Grandpa's? It looks like his mark. You said on the phone that you maintained it." "I maintained a lot of his equipment. This camera came through here more times than some customers." "When was the last time?" Isaac looked toward the rows of drawers. "I'd have to check my books." "You don't remember?" "I remember, Robert. Dates are why people keep books." He crossed to a cabinet and pulled out a thick appointment ledger. The pages made a dry brushing sound as he turned them. Jasmine could see names, brief notes, and amounts written in blue ink. Isaac started near the back and worked in reverse. "Did he bring this to you after he stopped working regularly?" she asked. "He never stopped working regularly. He stopped being paid regularly." "That sounds like him. He took assignments nobody else wanted. He said the younger crews drove too fast and left too early. He told me stations didn't want to pay for patience. He told everybody that." Isaac found Robert's name on one page and traced the line with his finger. He looked at the camera, then back at the entry. "What does it say?" Jasmine asked. "Routine cleaning. Spring tension checked. Gate polished." "When?" "Early spring, 2 years ago." "Anything after that?" Isaac continued through the ledger. There was another entry several months later. This one contained fewer words. He read it twice. "What?" "He bought film. That camera uses film." "It does." "You're making that sound important." "I'm making it sound like he bought film." Isaac closed the ledger. Jasmine knew when someone was choosing caution over an answer. Robert had done it often, especially when the answer depended on facts he didn't yet have. "What do you need to check it?" "Time, a clean bench, and permission." "You have permission." "Not yet, I don't." He pointed to the chamber. "I can inspect the exterior and the transport without breaking that seal. If I need to go farther, I stop and call you." "How much?" "For the inspection, $75. A transport repair could be several hundred, more if parts need to be made." The whole camera was appraised at $35. Then the appraiser saved time. "You think the appraisal's wrong? I think the camera's worth $35 to somebody who wants to resell it by Friday. You're asking a different question." Jasmine looked at the worn black body. "Is it repairable?" "Probably." That was all Isaac would give her, but it was enough to take away the word junk. She opened her wallet and counted 4 $20 bills. He returned $5, wrote a receipt, and placed it beside the case. "I can start this afternoon. I need to take it with me first." Isaac frowned. "Why? There may be service notes at Grandpa's house. The cleanout starts tomorrow. Bring it back before 5. "I will." He wrapped the camera again himself. As Jasmine reached the door, Isaac said, "Your grandfather trusted you with equipment when you were young." She turned. "How do you know?" "He complained that you forgot to loosen the tripod head before packing it." "That happened once." "He also said you listened before you pointed a lens at people." "That was harder to teach." Jasmine didn't know what to say. Robert had corrected her constantly. Praise usually reached her through someone else, if it reached her at all. Isaac opened the door. "Before 5, he repeated. Robert's house looked smaller, without his car in the driveway. A real estate sign stood in the yard, though the sale hadn't closed. Melissa's sedan was parked by the garage, and Cody's van blocked half the sidewalk. Jasmine carried the camera through the front door. Melissa was wrapping glass bowls and newspaper at the dining table. "You're late. It's 9:15. You said early. I had an appointment." "With whom?" "A camera technician." Melissa stopped wrapping. "You're spending money on that?" "I paid for an inspection." "How much?" Jasmine set the case beside the coat closet. "Where are Grandpa's equipment notes?" "You paid somebody before asking whether the notes were here? Do you know where they are?" Melissa pressed tape across the newspaper. "His desk is still full. Cody's going through it." From the back room, Cody called, "Most of this is station paperwork." Jasmine walked down the hall. Robert's office had once been a bedroom. 2 metal filing cabinets stood beside a desk too large for the room. Cody occupied Robert's chair. He had arranged press passes across the desktop and was taking pictures of them with his phone. "Did you find camera service records?" Jasmine asked. "No." "But look at this." He held up a plastic badge bearing a photograph of Robert in middle age. Robert's hair was dark, his shirt collar was too wide, and a station logo filled one corner. "This will look good behind my desk," Cody said. "Melissa said I could have photographs. It's a credential. It has a photograph on it." Cody lowered the badge. "Do you want it?" Jasmine did. She wanted the version of Robert who had carried that badge. She wanted his desk, the coffee ring on the right corner, and the crooked floor lamp he had repaired with speaker wire. More than that, she wanted Cody to offer without making her prove why she cared. "No," she said. "Keep it." Cody slid it into a clear sleeve. "There are loose pictures in the bottom drawer." Jasmine opened it. Envelopes, rubber bands, batteries, and notepads had been pushed together without order. She took out one stack at a time and searched for service receipts. Cody watched her for a moment. "Mom thinks you're upset about the estate." "I'm upset Grandpa died." "You know what I mean." "No, tell me." He leaned back in Robert's chair. "She thinks you expected more." Jasmine held an envelope without opening it. "Did you?" "I didn't know what to expect. That camera provision was weird. The rights language and all that. You heard the clerk? It belongs to me." "I'm not arguing. You reached for it. I wanted to look. You had all morning before it became mine." Cody's expression hardened. He turned toward the press passes and aligned their edges. "Grandpa helped raise you. Nobody disputes that. But Mom handled the practical stuff at the end. She paid bills. She talked to doctors. I drove him to those doctors. I know. I picked up his prescriptions. I stayed here when he couldn't sleep. I said, I know." He did know. That was what hurt. Cody wasn't unaware of Jasmine's work. He just believed Melissa's work belonged in the estate story, and Jasmine's belonged somewhere else. Jasmine found an envelope from Isaac's shop. It contained old receipts, but none were recent. Beneath it lay a small black notebook with Robert's initials on the cover. She opened it. The pages listed equipment by serial number. Most entries were brief: cleaned, tested, sold, donated. The news camera appeared several times near the middle. Robert had recorded lens settings, spring checks, and dates. The final line gave only Isaac's shop name and two underlined words: "Leave sealed." Jasmine read it again. Cody stood. "What did you find?" "Maintenance notes." "For which equipment?" "The camera." He came around the desk. Jasmine closed the notebook. "Can I see?" "You said film cameras were useless to your business. That doesn't mean the records are yours." "They were in Grandpa's desk," Jasmine said. "The camera entry belongs with the camera." Cody looked toward the hallway. He wasn't used to Jasmine drawing lines inside Robert's house. Neither was she. Melissa appeared in the doorway carrying an empty box. "Are we having another problem?" "No," Cody said. Jasmine held up the notebook. "I'm taking this with the camera." Melissa shifted the box against her hip. "Take it. But could you sort the photographs before you go? Anything personal can go into separate piles." "How many are there?" "2 storage tubs." Jasmine looked at the clock. She had enough time before returning to Isaac, but only if she spent the next several hours doing what Melissa asked. That was how it had always worked. Melissa made a request sound temporary and reasonable. Jasmine said yes because being useful gave her a place in the room. Then she waited for someone to notice that she had stayed. When Robert's health worsened, Jasmine had believed the family finally depended on her. She took fewer shifts, canceled plans, and learned the names of his pills. Melissa thanked her by assigning the next task. Cody thanked her by saying she was better at personal things. Jasmine had accepted both explanations. She had wanted their need to mean she belonged with them. Now, standing in Robert's office, she saw how much she had helped maintain the arrangement. They didn't have to exclude her. She kept volunteering for the narrow place they left open. "I can't sort them today," she said. Melissa blinked. "The crew comes tomorrow, then set the tubs aside. I'll collect them after the camera appointment." "I have a schedule, Jasmine." "So do I." Melissa's mouth opened, then closed. Cody stared at the notebook in Jasmine's hand. She expected one of them to accuse her of being difficult. Neither did. They were too surprised. Jasmine tucked the notebook beneath her arm, lifted the camera case, and walked toward the front door. Behind her, Melissa said, "Your grandfather always knew you'd come when he called." Jasmine stopped with her hand on the knob. Melissa hadn't meant it cruelly. That made it harder. He didn't always call, Jasmine said. Sometimes I came because the rest of you assumed I would. Then she carried the camera to her car, placed Robert's notebook beside it, and drove back toward Isaac's shop before anyone could give her another job. The shop door was locked when she returned, though the sign still said open. Jasmine knocked. Isaac appeared from the back, wearing a canvas apron, and raised one finger. He unlocked the door, let her in, then locked it again. "I'm not taking walk-ins today," he said. "Am I a walk-in? You paid $75. You're an obligation." She set the case on his bench and gave him Robert's notebook. Isaac opened to the final entry. He read the underlined instruction, checked the earlier pages, then carried the notebook to his ledger. "These dates match," he said. "What does that tell us?" Robert had the camera serviced here in the spring. Later, he made this note himself. So he wanted the chamber left closed. That's what the words mean. Why would he write it in two places? Isaac tapped his ledger. He didn't. "I wrote the shop entry, Robert wrote the notebook." Jasmine moved closer. "What does your entry say?" Isaac turned the ledger so she could see. The line beside Robert's name contained a date and 5 words. "External cleaning only, leave chamber sealed." "He brought it here like that?" she asked. "Yes." "And you didn't ask why?" I asked. "He said the chamber wasn't to be opened. That was enough for you?" With Robert, some days it had to be. Isaac removed his magnifying lens from its cord and held it over the red wax. A tiny letter R had been pressed into the mark. "I didn't notice that," Jasmine said. "You weren't meant to. It was meant for whoever serviced the camera. Was it there when he brought it to you?" "Yes." That confirmed one small part of the mystery. Robert hadn't forgotten the camera in a closet after the mechanism failed. He had sealed it, carried it across town, and ordered Isaac to work around the chamber. Jasmine looked through the shop window toward the railroad tracks. A freight train moved slowly past the end of the street. The crossing bell sounded, steady and dull. "What happened if you opened it?" she asked. "That depended on what was inside. You think something is? I think we should inspect the transport before we decide." She took the receipt from her wallet. "Do it." Isaac looked at her rather than the camera. "Inspection only? Repair it if you can without breaking the seal. That could cost more than we discussed." "How much more?" "I won't know until I expose the drive side. Give me a limit." He named an amount that left Jasmine with rent and groceries, but removed nearly all the cushion between them. She had been saving that money for new tires before winter. The front pair were already wearing unevenly. She thought of Melissa asking why she would spend anything on the camera. Then she thought of Robert carrying it here and telling Isaac not to open the chamber. "Call me before you go over that," she said. Isaac took a work order from a drawer. "Write it yourself." "Why?" "Because if this becomes complicated, neither of us should depend on memory." Jasmine wrote permission for external transport repair only. She added that the sealed film chamber was not to be opened without her presence and signed her name. Isaac read it, nodded once, and taped the page above the bench. "That's a good instruction," he said. "Grandpa taught me to be specific. He taught you after learning the expensive way." Isaac removed the camera from its case. He gave Jasmine a soft brush and asked her to clean the empty case at a table near the window. "You want me to stay? You told me not to open the chamber without you. I meant call me first. I know what you meant. I'm following what you wrote." Jasmine almost objected. Then she carried the case to the table and began lifting dust from the seams. Isaac worked without conversation for several minutes. His tools made small, precise sounds against the metal body. He removed the winding key, then a narrow exterior plate. Beneath it, the old grease had turned the color of dried mustard. "There's your first problem," he said. "What am I looking at?" "Grease that stopped being grease." He touched one gear with a wooden pick. It didn't move. "Can you fix it?" "Yes." The answer came so plainly that Jasmine smiled before she could stop herself. Isaac noticed that wasn't the difficult question. It was one of them. He warmed the outer plate with a small lamp and loosened the hardened grease a little at a time. Jasmine cleaned the case until the brown leather showed beneath the gray film. She removed the garden wire and found 2 screw holes where the broken buckle had been. "Do you have a replacement for this?" she asked. Isaac opened one of the wall drawers without looking away from the camera. Third tray, left side. The drawer held buckles wrapped in paper. Jasmine chose one close to the size of the original. "Not that one," Isaac said. You didn't even look. I heard it. She set it down and chose another. This? Too wide. She held the third against the case. The screw holes matched. Isaac glanced over. That will do? It was a small approval, but it felt clean. She hadn't earned the right to remain in the shop by accepting someone else's chores. She had asked for useful work, made a choice, and gotten it right. Isaac showed her how to remove the old backing plate without tearing the leather. She cleaned the holes and attached the replacement buckle with 2 dark screws. It wasn't beautiful. It closed. Near noon, Isaac freed the first gear. The movement traveled through the camera with a faint metallic click. He stopped immediately. What happened? Jasmine asked. The drivetrain moved. Is that bad? It means the blockage isn't only in the outer gears. He examined the footage counter beneath its cloudy cover. Using a cotton swab, he cleaned the glass until the markings became visible. The indicator sat well above 0. Jasmine leaned over his shoulder. Does that mean film? It means the counter wasn't reset. Could Robert have forgotten? Yes. But you don't think he did. I don't make a living by deciding what dead men thought. He rotated the outer drive by a fraction. The counter moved backward, then returned when he released pressure. Isaac took both hands away. What did you feel? Jasmine asked. Resistance from the feed side. The sealed side, yes. He stood still for a moment, working through the mechanism in his head. Jasmine could see the change in him. Until then, he had treated the camera as an old machine with careful instructions. Now the instruction and the resistance belonged to the same problem. Is there a reel inside? She asked. I can't confirm that without darkness. You just said the resistance comes from that side. I said the feed side is under load. A reel is the likely reason. Could it be unused film? Possibly. Could it have been exposed? Possibly. Every answer opened another question. Isaac removed his apron and went to the sink. We need lunch. I'm not hungry. That doesn't affect whether I need lunch. He washed his hands, then pulled 2 wrapped sandwiches from a small refrigerator. He handed one to Jasmine. I didn't bring anything. Robert used to bring 2 and leave 1 in there until it became dangerous. I learned to plan. Jasmine accepted the sandwich. It was cheese, mustard, and sliced tomato on wheat bread. They ate at the front table beside the cleaned camera case. A train passed without sounding its horn. Did Grandpa bring the camera here after an assignment? She asked. Isaac chewed before answering. He had ash on his boots. When? The summer of the Flint Hills fire. Jasmine remembered that week. Smoke had turned the afternoon light orange in Emporia. Robert left before sunrise one day with bottled water, a canvas jacket, and a paper map folded into his back pocket. He returned after midnight, smelling of smoke. She had been in his kitchen when he came through the door. At 26, she no longer lived with him, but she still checked on him when severe weather or fire warnings filled the news. Robert had placed the camera case on a chair and told her not to touch it. His left sleeve had a burned hole near the wrist. Were you close to the fire? She asked. Close enough. That isn't an answer. It's the one I have tonight. He drank 2 glasses of water, showered, and slept until noon. The next day, the case was gone. Jasmine assumed he had taken it to Isaac or stored it with his other equipment. She hadn't asked again. Now she set down the sandwich. He used it during the fire. Isaac folded his wrapper. I didn't say that. He took it with him. I saw the case when he came home. That makes it more likely. Why didn't he develop the film? If there's exposed film in there, that's the question. Would it still be usable? Maybe. Age, heat, moisture, and radiation all affect undeveloped stock. 2 years isn't ideal, but the sealed case helped. So, we open it in a dark room. Not yet. Why not? Because darkness keeps light from ruining it. Darkness doesn't process it. Isaac explained that old film stock could react badly to standard chemistry. They needed to identify what Robert bought, prepare the right developer, control the temperature, and handle the reel without seeing it. If the film had become brittle, forcing it through a processor could tear it. If the exposure was poor, there might be nothing recognizable. If the chamber contained fresh film rather than exposed footage, processing it would waste the reel. Can you do it? Jasmine asked. I have the tanks. I haven't processed this stock in years. But you can. I can reduce the risks. I can't remove them. Jasmine thought of her front tires and the money already committed to the transport. How much would specialized processing cost? Isaac named another amount. This one reached into the savings she had promised herself not to touch. That includes new chemistry and test strips, he said. I'd run an old piece of the same stock first if I can find one. And if the reel is blank, you still pay for the materials. If it's ruined, you still pay. If you make a mistake, Isaac met her eyes. Then I'll tell you I made one. It was not comforting, but it was honest. He returned to the bench and spent the next 2 hours cleaning the drive mechanism. Jasmine sat nearby with Robert's notebook, looking for any reference to film stock. She found lens notes, weather readings, and reminders to replace a worn shoulder pad. She found no title, assignment, or explanation. At 3:30, Isaac fitted the outer plate again and wound the spring by a single turn. "Watch the counter," he said. He pressed the release for less than a second. The mechanism moved. The sound was uneven, but unmistakable. The counter advanced by a fraction. Something inside the sealed chamber turned with it. Isaac released the control. "That confirms a loaded spindle," he said. Jasmine looked at the red wax. "There's film in Grandpa's camera. There is material wound inside. We don't know whether it holds pictures, but he kept it sealed for 2 years. Yes. And he wrote that instruction twice. Yes." She had come to Isaac wanting the camera to work again. That objective now felt too small. Repairing the mechanism mattered, but the camera was carrying something Robert had protected without explaining. Isaac wrote a list on the back of her receipt. "Film stock, processing materials, test reel," he said. "I can call suppliers this afternoon. How long? A few days if anyone has what we need. Order it. You should think first." "I have. You've had about 40 seconds. I've had 2 years without knowing there was anything to think about." Isaac studied her face, then picked up the phone. Jasmine paid the repair deposit while he placed the order. The charge left her account before he ended the call. She watched the balance drop and knew she would have to take extra shifts, delay the tires, and stop saying yes whenever family work cost her paid hours. Isaac stored the camera in a metal cabinet at the rear of the shop. Before closing it, he placed a fresh label across the doors. "Do not open except under controlled darkness." He handed Jasmine the only key. "If that film has images," she said, "someone may know why he took them." Isaac wiped his glasses on the edge of his apron. "Then, you'll need someone who knew his assignments." "Who?" "Abigail Foster sent Robert into the field for years. Would she remember one fire?" Isaac closed the cabinet, and the lock turned beneath Jasmine's hand. "If Robert went where nobody else did," he said, "Abigail would remember why." Jasmine called the number Isaac wrote beneath Abigail's name. A recorded voice said the Kansas Memory Film Center had closed for the day. She left her name and number, then drove back to Robert's house for the photographs. The front door stood open. Melissa had moved the dining chairs into the garage, and pale rectangles showed where pictures had hung on the walls. Without Robert's coat on the hook and his shoes beneath the bench, the entry looked like a rental between tenants. Cody carried one of the storage tubs from the hall. "I thought you weren't coming back. I said I would. Where's the camera?" "At the shop." He lowered the tub. "Still broken? The transport can be repaired. I told you it probably could." He had not told her that, but arguing over it would give him the easier subject. "The photographs are in both tubs?" she asked. "Mostly. There are newspaper clippings mixed in." Melissa came from the kitchen with a roll of trash bags. "You can sort them at your apartment," she said. "Just bring back anything that belongs with the house records." "What counts as house records? Receipts, repair invoices, insurance papers. I'll put those aside." Melissa nodded toward the camera case, then noticed Jasmine didn't have it. "How much is this repair costing?" "I'm handling it. That wasn't my question. It's the answer I have." Cody gave Melissa a look. She understood it immediately. Jasmine saw the exchange and wished she hadn't. They had spoken about the camera while she was gone. "What?" Jasmine said. Melissa set the trash bags on the floor. "Cody said you found some kind of note, a maintenance note." "Saying what?" Jasmine could refuse. The camera belonged to her. The notebook belonged with it. Still, 10 years of explaining herself inside this house made silence feel like guilt. It said to leave the chamber sealed. Cody's attention sharpened. So there could be film in it. There is film in it. The words changed the room. Melissa's first response was practical. Jasmine watched her calculate whether this created another unfinished task. "Family film?" she asked. "I don't know. What else would Dad have?" "He used the camera for news work. Not recently. He bought film 2 years ago, Jasmine said. Cody rested both hands on the tub lid. Did the technician open it? No. Then how does he know? The footage counter and drive resistance show a loaded spindle. Cody understood enough equipment language to stop smiling. Exposed? We don't know. What stock? We don't know that either. I could scan it at my office. It hasn't been developed. I know how film works, Jasmine. Then scanning comes later. Cody looked toward the missing place on the wall where Robert's framed station photograph had hung. He was trying to imagine what the reel might contain. Family footage would have emotional value. Old news footage might look good on his company website. He did not yet think in larger terms. He only knew the worthless camera had become interesting after it left his reach. I can help with the processing, he said. Isaac is handling it. Isaac still repairs cameras out of that little shop? Yes. He doesn't have a modern scanner. We aren't at that point. You could bring it to me after development. Jasmine lifted one tub. If there's anything viewable, I'll decide then. Why are you being territorial? Because you keep asking for control before we know what exists. Melissa stepped between them without physically moving. She had always done that by lowering her voice. Nobody is taking anything from you. But if the camera contains property that wasn't appraised, we may need to correct the inventory. The decree says the contents are mine. It also says the camera is worth $35. That's the appraisal, not the decree, which is why we may need another appraisal. Jasmine set the tub down again. You gave it to me because you thought it had no value. We distributed it according to Dad's instructions. You put it on the floor. Melissa glanced toward Cody. She disliked being made responsible for details that revealed what she preferred to call efficiency. The placement of the case doesn't change the paperwork. Neither does finding film inside it. We don't know that. Isaac confirmed it. Melissa picked up the roll of bags. Then I'll call the appraiser in the morning. No one opens that camera. The appraiser may need to inspect it, not outside controlled darkness. I'm not asking anyone to ruin it. You're asking for access. I'm asking to finish the estate correctly. Jasmine heard the familiar invitation in Melissa's tone. Be reasonable. Make the task easy. Don't force anyone to say why your answer matters less. This time, she didn't accept it. The camera stays with Isaac, she said. The film stays sealed until it can be processed safely. If you have a question about the decree, put it in writing. Cody gave a short laugh. Now we're putting things in writing? Isaac did. It helped. Melissa's face went still. Fine. It didn't sound fine. It sounded like a new file had opened in her mind. Jasmine carried the first tub to her car. Cody brought out the second. At the curb, he held on after she reached for it. If it's Grandpa's last footage, it belongs in the family, he said. I am family. That's not what I meant. Jasmine waited. Cody released the tub. You know what I meant? She did. He meant the part of the family with a business, a wall for the press credentials, and a recognized use for Robert's name. Jasmine was welcome to preserve memories. Cody expected to present the legacy. She loaded the tub without answering. The next morning, Abigail returned the call at 8:20. Her voice was brisk and low. Isaac said Robert's camera still exists. He told you already? He called after you left. He said you'd need context before you risk the film. Jasmine sat at her kitchen table with Robert's notebook open. Do you know what he filmed? No. Tell me what you found. Jasmine described the seal, the counter, and the loaded spindle. Abigail asked for the camera model, the service dates, and any markings on the case. Her questions came quickly, but she didn't interrupt the answers. When did Robert last bring you footage? Jasmine asked. From that camera? Years ago. He used newer equipment when a station expected fast delivery. Isaac said he came back with it after the Flint Hills fire. Abigail became quiet. Which day? Jasmine told her when Robert had returned with the burned sleeve. She remembered because it was the evening the wind shifted and ash fell across Emporia in small gray pieces. Did he tell you where he'd been? Abigail asked. He said close enough. That sounds like Robert. Was he working for you? Not exactly. I called him. What's the difference? I didn't have money to hire him. The center was collecting local coverage. He said he'd see what he could document. Where did he go? Abigail moved something on her desk. Jasmine heard paper slide against paper. The fire crossed 2 county roads that afternoon. Most crews stayed near the official briefing area. Robert knew an old ranch route south of the closure. He went through a closure? He went around it before the road was fully blocked. That isn't the same thing, though it wasn't smart. Was anyone with him? No. How do you know? Because he called from the road. I told him to turn back. He said there were volunteer crews farther east and no camera with them. Jasmine pictured Robert holding the phone between his shoulder and ear while unfolding a map across his steering wheel. He had been 79 then, old enough to know better, and certain that knowing better did not always decide what needed doing. What volunteer crews? She asked. People moving residents out. Fire crews from small towns, church groups with water and food. The community center near the East Road became a temporary kitchen. Was it damaged? Yes. How badly? I don't know. I never saw Robert's film. Did you ask for it? For weeks. What did he say? At first he said it wasn't ready. Later, he said the story wasn't finished. Jasmine looked at the sealed instruction in his notebook. What did that mean? I thought he wanted to return and film recovery. Robert disliked ending a story with the worst thing that happened. Did he go back? I don't know. You were his editor, years earlier. By then, I was asking favors he was free to refuse. Abigail's voice softened slightly. He stopped taking my calls about the reel. We still spoke about other work. I decided he had made a mistake in the field and didn't want to admit the film was damaged. Would he do that? He would delay admitting it. Jasmine almost smiled. Yes. Did Isaac say the film can be processed? He can do it if we buy the right materials. Don't let anyone cut the reel. I wasn't planning to. Don't let anyone run it through a scanner before it's stabilized. Keep every piece of leader. Photograph the seal before it's broken. Record the edge markings and the order in which the film comes off the spindle. Why? Because if it shows anything important, people will ask where it came from and whether it was altered. Jasmine wrote each instruction on a paper grocery bag because it was the only blank surface within reach. You're talking like you think it matters. I think Robert protected it. That matters. The images may still be fogged, underexposed, or blank. If there are images, will you recognize the location? Probably. I reviewed every still photograph we collected after the fire. Would you come when we process it? Abigail hesitated. I have a preservation meeting Thursday morning. I could reach Isaac's shop after lunch. The materials aren't here yet. Call when they arrive. Until then, keep the camera cool and locked. It is. And Jasmine? Yes. If Robert reached the East Road, he may have been the only person there with a motion picture camera. That doesn't tell us what he captured. It tells us not to guess. After the call, Jasmine copied the instructions onto a clean sheet and took them to Isaac. He was working on the replacement buckle when she arrived. He had removed the cloudy lens caps and cleaned one lens. The glass caught the light without haze. That's better, she said. It's one lens. It's still better. She handed him Abigail's list. Isaac read it without complaint until he reached the instruction about photographing the seal. She still thinks like an editor, he said. She thinks someone may question the film. Someone always questions film after it shows them something they missed. You haven't seen it. Neither has Abigail. Isaac placed the list beside Jasmine's work order. The supplier found chemistry, he said. It arrives Friday. Can we process it then? If the test strip behaves, how long will that take? Most of the day. I'll be here. You'll need gloves, old clothes, and patience. I have 2 of those. Buy gloves. Her phone rang while he spoke. Melissa's name appeared on the screen. Jasmine answered. The appraiser can come Friday morning, Melissa said. The camera won't be available. He only needs to examine it. It's locked in Isaac's cabinet. Then we'll meet there. No? Melissa inhaled slowly. You don't get to prevent a corrected appraisal. I'm not preventing anything. You can appraise the case, the model, and every photograph we took before repair. You can't open the chamber. The contents may affect the estate. The contents were granted to me. That wording may have assumed ordinary accessories. It says contents. Cody thinks image rights could belong with the equipment he received. Cody didn't receive this equipment. He received the business equipment. Grandpa did not have a business. Then we need clarification. Jasmine looked through the shop toward the locked cabinet. The key was in her pocket. Abigail's instructions lay beside the repair order, bearing Jasmine's signature. For the first time since Robert died, the limits around his camera existed somewhere beyond her own wishes. Send the appraiser's request in writing, she said. Melissa was silent for several seconds. Friday, she said at last. Don't do anything irreversible before then. The call ended. Isaac had heard enough to understand. Processing is irreversible, he said. Jasmine folded Abigail's instructions and put them back on the bench. So is opening the chamber for an appraisal. Outside, a delivery truck passed the shop and stirred dust against the window. By Friday, Jasmine would have the materials to discover what Robert had protected. She would also have Melissa and Cody standing at the door, asking her to wait. Friday morning brought steady rain and a leak above the shop's front window. Isaac had placed a bucket beneath it before Jasmine arrived. He was already in the back room, checking the temperature of 3 glass bottles in a water bath. "You're early," he said. "So are you." "I own the lock." Jasmine hung her wet jacket beside the door. The workbench had been cleared. Robert's camera stood on a padded mat with its outer drive plate open. The gears were clean now, and the hardened yellow grease was gone. Isaac pointed to a box on the counter. "Gloves." She opened it and pulled out a pair. "Not yet." "Your hands will sweat in those all morning." "You told me to bring patience." "I didn't tell you to waste gloves." He showed her the test reel. It was a short strip of film from the same manufacturer and roughly the same period as the stock Robert had purchased. Isaac had spent 2 days calling suppliers before finding it in a retired technician's refrigerator. "This won't tell us what Robert's film will do," he said. "It tells us whether the chemistry behaves. And if it doesn't, we adjust before risking the reel." They worked with the lights on. Isaac measured the chemicals while Jasmine wrote down the temperature, dilution, and time. He made her repeat each number before he poured anything. Robert had taught the same way. He never said, "Be careful." He gave a person one exact thing to watch. The test strip went into a small developing tank. Isaac closed the lid and turned on a timer. "Agitate," he said. Jasmine rotated the tank as he had shown her. Slower. She adjusted. At the sink, rain ticked against the high window. Isaac watched the timer rather than her hands. "Did Melissa send anything in writing?" he asked. "An email from the appraiser. He wants to inspect the exterior and confirm the serial number. That's reasonable." She also wrote that nothing should be developed until the estate review is complete. That isn't the appraiser's sentence. "No." "What did you answer?" "That the chamber wouldn't be opened before the inspection." Isaac looked at the camera. "You gave her what she asked for. I gave the appraiser what he needed. That's different." The timer sounded. Isaac guided Jasmine through the next bath, then the rinse. When he removed the strip, faint gray images appeared along its length. Jasmine leaned close. "It worked. The chemistry worked." "That is what I said." "No, you said it worked. We haven't used it on the reel." He clipped the strip above the sink. The small frame showed a row of parked cars and part of a brick wall. They weren't important images. They were useful because they existed. Isaac checked the strip through his magnifier. "Density is good. No softening. We can lower the temperature by 1 degree and extend the first bath." Jasmine wrote down the change. It was the first practical result that didn't depend on family opinion. The materials were correct. The process could be done. Robert's reel might still fail, but not because they had guessed at the chemistry. At 9, the front door rattled. Melissa stood beneath an umbrella with Cody and the appraiser behind her. She had chosen the exact time in her email. Isaac let them in, then wiped rainwater from the floor before anyone could step in it. The appraiser carried a tablet and a measuring tape. He was the same man who had placed the $35 sticker on the case. He recognized Jasmine and gave her a polite nod. "I understand the camera is under repair." "The exterior transport is repaired," Jasmine said. "The film chamber is still sealed." "May I see the decree description?" Melissa handed him a copy before Jasmine could answer. The appraiser read the relevant paragraph. He didn't comment on it. He asked Isaac to place the camera on the front table. "No one opens the chamber," Jasmine said. "I don't need to open it. Please say that again so everyone hears it." Melissa looked away. The appraiser repeated himself. "I don't need to open the chamber." Isaac brought the camera forward. Jasmine stood beside him with the key to the cabinet in her pocket, though the cabinet was already open. The appraiser photographed the model plate and serial number. He examined the lenses without removing them. When he reached toward the film door, Jasmine raised one hand. "I'm looking at the seal," he said. "You can look." Cody stood near the workbench. His attention moved from the chemicals to the test strip hanging above the sink. "You're ready to develop it," he said. "We're ready to test the actual stock," Isaac replied. "You just did." "That is not Robert's film." Cody stepped closer to the strip. "Do you have a scanner?" "Not one I'd use before the film is stabilized. I have a high-resolution unit at my office." Jasmine knew the machine he meant. It had belonged to Robert and had gone to Cody with the newer equipment. Robert used it for negatives and short film segments, though not for full archival work. Cody noticed her expression. See? That would save you money. We don't know whether there's anything to scan. If there is, you'll need the equipment I inherited. Abigail's center has equipment. Then you've already talked to Abigail. Jasmine didn't answer. Melissa turned from the appraiser. Why wasn't I told? Because I asked her about Grandpa's assignment. You told an outside organization about estate property while disputing its value? The film belongs to me. You keep saying that, as if saying it settles everything. The decree settled it. The appraiser straightened. I should be clear about my role. I can provide a market opinion on the physical camera. I can't interpret the decree, and I can't value unseen images. Would film inside change the camera's appraisal? Melissa asked. Ordinary exposed film usually has little resale value. Content can have separate value, but that depends entirely on what it shows, who owns the rights, and whether anyone wants to use it. So, the original appraisal could still be correct. For the camera body in its prior condition, yes. Isaac glanced at the repaired transport. Prior condition. The appraiser nodded. Repair improves function, but restoration cost and market value aren't the same thing. Jasmine had already learned that from Isaac in fewer words. Melissa pointed to the test strip. If they develop the film today, does that make a later appraisal impossible? No. It may make the content easier to identify. Or destroy it, Cody said. Isaac's face did not change. That is why we tested the chemistry. Cody approached Jasmine and lowered his voice, though everyone could still hear. You're taking a large risk with equipment you barely understand. I understand the risk. You didn't know there was film in it 4 days ago. Neither did you. I work with images every day. You work with digital files. I know people who process film. So do I. Cody looked at Isaac, then back at her. Let me cover the processing. We can make a proper digital master at my office. If it's personal, you keep the original. If it has commercial use, my company handles licensing. There it was. His offer sounded generous because he left the percentages out. What would your company receive? Jasmine asked. Control of distribution. We'd split revenue after expenses. What split? We'd work that out. Who chooses where it's shown? The company would. Who owns the digital master? The company, until costs are recovered. And if I disagree with how Grandpa's footage is used? Cody spread his hands. That's why we'd have an agreement. You mean an agreement giving you control? I mean an agreement protecting both of us. Jasmine looked toward Robert's camera. Cody wanted the thing he understood best, not the film itself, but the right to decide where other people saw it. He believed that was the useful part. A week earlier, Jasmine might have accepted his offer just to prove she wasn't shutting him out. I've paid for the processing, she said. I'm not trading control for help I don't need. His face flushed. Then, what exactly do you want from me? Nothing right now. That answer landed harder than a refusal of money. Melissa stepped closer. Jasmine, this isn't how family handles uncertainty. How does family handle it? We slow down. We make decisions together. Did we make decisions together when the house went under contract? That was Dad's instruction. So is this. Melissa folded her copy of the decree. I'm asking you to wait until we get clarification. From whom? The probate office. The clerk already read it. A clerk reads what's entered. She doesn't decide what disputed words mean. Jasmine didn't know whether that was correct. The uncertainty must have shown because Melissa's shoulders relaxed slightly. We can resolve this without a fight, she said. I'm not fighting you. You're refusing every reasonable request. I let the appraiser inspect the camera. You set conditions that protected the film. The appraiser finished typing and placed a new label on the table instead of the case. He did not attach it. My revised physical appraisal will note that the transport is operational and the chamber contains unidentified film. I'll send the report Monday. Will you assign a value? Melissa asked. To the camera, not the images. What about the rights? I don't appraise legal rights. He packed his measuring tape and left after one more photograph of the intact seal. His function was complete, but the result satisfied nobody. He had confirmed that Jasmine's repair worked. He had also given Melissa a new phrase to use, unidentified film. Cody collected his umbrella. My offer stands, he said. It shouldn't. Why? Because you still don't know what you're offering to control. He looked at the camera once more, then followed Melissa outside. Before leaving, Melissa said, If you process it today, you do so. Knowing the family objected, Jasmine held the door open. You objected after it became interesting. Melissa stepped into the rain without replying. At 12:30, Abigail arrived carrying a hard case, a camera, and a packet of archival forms. Her dark hair was streaked with silver and pulled away from her face. She greeted Isaac with a brief hug, then looked directly at Jasmine. "You kept the seal intact?" "Yes." "Show me." Abigail photographed the camera from 4 sides. She took close images of the red wax, the counter, the serial plate, and Robert's initials beneath the handle. Then she asked Jasmine to sign a form stating where the camera had been since the decree. "This isn't a claim on it," Abigail said. "It's a handling record. Melissa will say, I'm involving the center too soon. Then write that I'm here as Robert's former editor, not as a buyer." "Are you a buyer? I haven't seen a single frame." Abigail turned to Isaac. "Can the transport move without pulling the film? I isolated it after the test. Any chance the reel was rewound? The counter suggests it was partly or fully exposed and wound forward. I won't know orientation until I feel the stock in darkness." They prepared the back room together. Isaac covered the high window and checked the door seals. Abigail placed clean envelopes and labels beside the sink. Jasmine wiped the counter twice and laid out the gloves. The phone rang in the front shop. Isaac answered. After a moment, he held the receiver toward Jasmine. "It's Melissa." Jasmine took it. "The probate office can't review the question until Monday," Melissa said. "I'm asking once more." "Wait." Behind Jasmine, Abigail checked the empty developing tank. Isaac measured the lowered temperature. Everything they had done led to the closed darkroom door. "If we wait until Monday, what changes?" Jasmine asked. "We get an answer. About ownership. Not about whether the film survives. It survived 2 years. That doesn't make delay useful. You're choosing strangers over us." Jasmine looked at Isaac, who had repaired Robert's camera without breaking his instruction. She looked at Abigail, who had come without knowing whether the reel held a single usable image. "No," Jasmine said. "I'm choosing the people doing the work." She ended the call, switched off her phone, and placed it in the front drawer. Then she put on the gloves, handed Isaac the cabinet key, and followed him and Abigail into the darkroom. Isaac closed the door and ran his fingers around its frame. "No light until I say," he said. "If anyone needs to leave, speak first." He switched off the ceiling lamp. The darkness was complete. Jasmine couldn't see her own hands. She heard Abigail set the camera gently on the counter, then the small click of Isaac opening his tool case. "Jasmine, stand where you are," he said. "I'm not moving. I know. I'm reminding all 3 of us." A tool touched metal. Isaac worked slowly at the chamber latch, preserving the red wax on a strip of archival paper. Abigail spoke the time aloud and recorded it on a battery-powered audio device whose screen had been covered. The latch released. Jasmine had imagined some sound from inside, a loose reel turning or film slipping against metal. There was only Isaac's breathing and the distant rain against the roof. "The chamber is open," he said. "Loaded supply spindle. Film has traveled through the gate." "Exposed?" Jasmine asked. "Orientation says yes." Her fingers tightened inside the gloves. "Can you tell how much?" "Most of the reel, maybe all." Isaac felt along the film without pulling it. He described each step for Abigail's record. The stock was wound onto the take-up spindle. The end had been secured. It did not feel brittle, but its condition could change once unrolled. "Robert knew what he was putting away," Isaac said. "What makes you sure?" Abigail asked. "The end is folded under cleanly." The gate was brushed. He sealed the chamber after the reel stopped. Jasmine heard paper move as Abigail made a note. "Can you remove it safely?" she asked. "Yes." Isaac lifted the reel free and placed it in a light-proof changing bag. The fabric rustled as he transferred the film into the developing tank. Twice he stopped because one layer resisted. Each pause lasted long enough for Jasmine to imagine torn perforations and loose strips gathering at the bottom. Then the tank lid clicked shut. "Lights," Isaac said. The room returned in a weak red glow first, then full white light. Robert's camera sat open on the counter. The chamber was empty except for the clean spindle and the narrow path where the film had traveled. Dust marked the outer edges, but the gate itself was almost spotless. Abigail photographed the empty chamber. Isaac kept one hand on the closed tank. "The film is loaded. We process now, or we put the whole tank in darkness and stop." "What would stopping do?" Jasmine asked. "Add handling with no benefit, then keep going." He checked the water bath again. The temperature had risen half a degree while they worked. Isaac added cool water, waited, and checked it twice more. Jasmine poured the first measured solution into the tank. Her hands shook enough that a few drops struck the counter. "Slow down," Isaac said. "I am going slowly." "No, you're moving slowly." "That isn't the same thing." She set the bottle down, took one breath, and began again. The tank filled. Isaac started the timer. For several minutes, Jasmine's entire world became a schedule of turns, pauses, and temperatures. Rotate, set down, wait, lift, rotate again. Abigail wrote every action and checked the labels. Nobody mentioned Melissa or the appraiser. The film had no interest in their argument. It responded only to light, chemicals, time, and how carefully three people handled it. During the rinse, a faint brown color appeared in the water. "Is that bad?" Jasmine asked. "Age stain," Isaac said. "Not automatically bad. Automatically is doing a lot of work there. It often does." They moved to the fixing bath. Isaac checked a small clipped end under the safe light. "There's an image," he said. Jasmine stepped toward him. "Stay with the tank." "What image?" "I can't tell yet. Density is uneven, but there is exposure." Abigail leaned over the clipped end with a loop. "I see sky," she said. "Maybe smoke." "Don't guess," Isaac told her. "You've known me 30 years. I'm going to guess. You can guess after we finish." The reel required a longer wash than the test strip. Some sections held more stain, and Isaac didn't want residue left in the emulsion. Jasmine's shoulders began to ache from holding the tank at the correct angle. She changed hands without asking. At last, Isaac turned off the water. He opened the tank and lifted the reel a few inches at a time. Wet film slid into the light. Images covered it. They were negatives, small and reversed, difficult for Jasmine to understand at first. Dark sky appeared pale. Fire became streaks of shadow. Human figures moved along the frames like tiny ghosts. She reached toward the strip, then stopped herself. "Can we look?" "Not with fingers," Isaac said. He clipped the first end to a drying line and drew the film carefully across the room. The reel kept coming. The opening section showed smoke over open grass. Then came vehicles on a narrow road, adults carrying water, and shapes moving between them. Abigail used the loop without touching the wet surface. "That's the East Road," she said. "You're sure?" Jasmine asked. "The bent cattle gate is in the county stills, and there's the community center roof." Isaac continued hanging the reel. A series of frames showed an adult supported between two volunteers. Another passage followed a pickup loaded with water containers. The camera angle remained low and close. Robert hadn't stayed on the safe side of the road with a long lens. He had walked among them. Jasmine knew the way he moved when filming. He kept his elbows in and stepped from heel to toe so the picture wouldn't jump. At 79, with smoke covering the road, he had carried that heavy camera toward people leaving the fire. "Why didn't he give this to you?" she asked. Abigail didn't answer immediately. Maybe he didn't know whether they wanted to be shown at their worst. He filmed news for most of his life. He also changed over most of his life. The middle of the reel was denser. Isaac adjusted the light beneath it, revealing the outline of volunteers guiding residents toward vehicles. A woman held a wet cloth over her mouth. Two men carried a folding table away from the community center. There were no sweeping views of the flames. Robert had stayed with hands, faces, doors, and the narrow space between danger and safety. Abigail moved along the line. "No other crew reached this section," she said. "We had still photographs from farther west and phone video near the highway. Nothing here." "Then this is the only film?" Jasmine asked. "The only close-moving record I know about." Isaac reached the final length and stopped. "This section looks different." The smoke thinned across the frames. Morning light replaced the orange sky. The same community center appeared with part of its siding burned. Adults carried boxes through an open door. One person swept debris from the entrance. Another set a coffee urn on a table. Jasmine looked through the loop Abigail handed her. The frames were small, but she could make out Robert's choices. He followed people returning rather than the damage they returned to. The last visible run showed three adults lifting a plywood panel over a broken window while someone inside arranged food on a counter. "He went back the next morning," Jasmine said. Abigail nodded. That must be what he meant. The story wasn't finished, not for him. The reel hung between them, wet and fragile. It could not be projected yet. It couldn't be wound, scanned, or carried into another room. Still, the scale of what Robert had kept was clear enough. This wasn't a forgotten family reel. It held the only close-motion images anyone knew of from the East Road, including the volunteers who returned to reopen the kitchen. Abigail removed her glasses and wiped them. "The center will need to see a proper projection after it cures," she said. "For what?" "To assess the footage. You said you weren't here as a buyer. I wasn't. I still haven't seen it moving, but you might be. If the sequence is stable, continuous, and what these frames suggest, yes." Jasmine looked at Isaac. "What would the center want?" "Don't ask him," Abigail said. "He doesn't negotiate for us." "I don't negotiate for anyone," Isaac replied. Abigail took a fresh form from her packet. "The center could consider an exhibition license. That would let us show and preserve access to the footage without taking the original from you permanently. But I won't discuss an offer until we verify what exists. What does verification require? A full viewing, edge codes, camera marks, a clean ownership record, identification of locations, and, where possible, the people filmed. The decree gives me the rights. I'll need a certified copy, not the page Melissa brought today." Jasmine thought of Melissa calling the probate office before the film was even developed. What if the family disputes it? Then the center waits. "We don't pay into an ownership fight. The gain narrowed at once. The film existed. Its importance was real. That made every uncertainty around it more expensive." Isaac checked the drying line. "Nobody views this before tomorrow." "I can stay," Jasmine said. "You can't make emulsion dry through loyalty." "I don't want to leave it. I have locks." So did Grandpa's house. Isaac understood. He brought a folding chair from the front room and placed it near the drying line. "You can sit if you want." "It will not help." Jasmine sat anyway. At 5, she remembered her phone. It held 3 messages from Melissa, 2 from Cody, and 1 from the supervisor at the print shop, where Jasmine worked 4 evenings a week. She had promised to cover a shift beginning at 4. Jasmine called the print shop first. Her supervisor answered with the sound of machines behind him. "I'm sorry," she said. "I lost track of time. You missed the whole start." "I know. We had to call someone in." "I'll come now." "Don't. We've covered it. I can take tomorrow." "You're already scheduled tomorrow." He paused. "This is the 3rd change since your grandfather got sick." "I know. I tried to work around the funeral. I can't keep rebuilding the schedule." Jasmine pressed her free hand against the edge of the table. "Are you taking me off?" "For next week, yes. After that, come in and we'll talk." She thanked him because she didn't know what else to say. 4 evenings of wages had disappeared, maybe more. When she ended the call, Isaac was checking the film. Abigail had heard enough to understand, but did not offer sympathy. "The center won't pay for a possibility," Abigail said. "I didn't ask it to." "No. But you should know what the footage could require before you spend as if an offer is certain." Jasmine paid Isaac's remaining bill from her phone. After rent, she had enough for groceries and little else. The new tires were no longer delayed. They were impossible. Melissa's first message asked whether the film had been processed. The second said the probate office would respond Monday. The third said, "I wish you had trusted us enough to wait." Cody's messages asked whether the reel contained anything and reminded her that his scanning offer remained open. Jasmine answered neither of them. She had begun by trying to save Robert's camera because it was the one thing he left her. Then she wanted to learn what he had protected. Those goals belonged to her grief, and neither was sufficient now. The film held people whose names she didn't know, doing work the wider record had missed. Owning the reel did not give her the right to reduce them to background for a family argument. She turned to Abigail. "If it survives projection, I want to identify the people before anyone uses it. That could take time. Then it takes time. The center can help, but help comes with procedures. I'll learn them." Isaac switched off the workbench lamp, leaving only the low-drying light. Jasmine moved her chair closer to the reel without touching it. She had lost money, work, and what remained of Melissa's willingness to treat disagreement as temporary. In return, she had received a responsibility Robert had never explained. By the time the wet film stopped shining beneath the light, Jasmine no longer wanted merely to prove it was hers. She wanted to become someone who could be trusted with what it showed. She slept for less than 4 hours in Isaac's folding chair. At 6:30, he came through the front room carrying coffee and 2 clean film cans. He checked the drying line before speaking. "Emulsion is firm," he said. "You can go home and shower. When can we view it?" After I inspect every foot. How long? As long as it takes. Jasmine stood, stiff from the chair. I'll be back in an hour. Make it 2. You smell like Fixer. At home, she showered, changed, and called the print shop. Her supervisor didn't answer. She left a message saying she would report for her scheduled evening shifts unless told otherwise. She didn't apologize a second time. She had missed work, and the cost was real. Repeating how sorry she was wouldn't restore the shift. Before returning to Isaac, she opened the photograph tubs from Robert's house. She needed a system, not another pile. She placed family photographs in one box and house records in another. Newspaper clippings went into folders by year. Near the bottom of the second tub, she found a thin envelope marked Flint Hills. Inside were 6 printed still photographs from other cameras. None showed the East Road. One showed smoke behind a line of emergency vehicles. Another showed volunteers stacking bottled water outside a church. On the back, Robert had written locations and times. There were no names. Jasmine photographed each note and carried the envelope to Isaac's shop. Abigail had arrived before her. A small inspection viewer sat on the workbench, along with white cotton gloves and a real counter. You found something? Abigail asked. Robert's reference pictures. Abigail examined the 6 stills. These came from the collection we assembled after the fire. He wrote times on the back. He was checking sequence. For what? Probably to place his own footage. Jasmine set a new notebook beside the photographs. She had divided each page into columns. Location, time, person, activity, source of identification, she said. Abigail opened it. You did this morning? I need to know who's on the reel. You won't identify everyone from faces. Then we start with vehicles, signs, and clothing. Somebody will know them. Abigail looked at her over the notebook. That is how cataloging begins. It was the first time she spoke to Jasmine, as if the work had already begun, not as if Jasmine were visiting Robert's old profession. Isaac carried the processed reel from the back room. He had wound it onto a clean archival core. No broken perforations, he said. Some shrinkage within usable limits. 2 weak splices in the leader, none in the photographed section. Continuous? Abigail asked. As wound. Can we run it? On the viewer first. He threaded the leader through the inspection viewer. The small screen lit. The first frames trembled, then steadied. Dry grass bent under hard wind. Smoke crossed the sky. Robert held the camera on a county road while 2 volunteer vehicles passed. The footage had no sound, but the movement made the scene feel closer than the wet negatives had. Jasmine watched a firefighter point east. Robert followed the gesture, then turned toward the same direction. He went after them, she said. Isaac marked the footage counter. Abigail noted the sequence. They stopped often. Jasmine wrote descriptions. Abigail compared landmarks with the reference photographs. Isaac checked the film path and cleaned dust from the viewer gate. One section showed volunteers moving residents toward pickup trucks. Robert stayed near enough to record faces but did not block anyone. When a woman turned away, he lowered the camera. The next shot began after she had covered her mouth with a wet cloth and nodded toward him. He asked permission, Jasmine said. Or she gave it without words, Abigail replied. Robert paid attention to that. The reel continued. A volunteer crew carried food and water from the damaged community center. Smoke covered part of the road, and the image darkened. For several seconds, only moving legs remained visible. Then Robert stepped into clearer air and held the frame until the final truck left. Abigail paused the viewer. This is more complete than anything in our collection. Is it enough for the center? But Jasmine asked. I need to see the rest. They reached the next morning's footage. The light changed. Wind still moved through the grass, but the smoke had lifted. Adults approached the community center carrying plywood, brooms, folding tables, and boxes of food. Robert followed them through the damaged entrance. He recorded burned siding, a broken window, and water on the floor. But he didn't stay with those images. The camera turned to the people cleaning. One adult scrubbed soot from a metal counter. Another tested an old coffee urn. 2 more set out bread and canned food while someone repaired the window. The final passage stayed on the kitchen as it opened again. A volunteer placed cups in rows. The front door opened. Adults came in from the road, tired and dirty, and accepted coffee. Robert held the shot long enough for the room to change from a damaged building into a place people were using. Then the image ended. No farewell appeared. No written explanation. The film simply ran out. Isaac shut off the viewer. For a while, the only sound came from the reel, slowing on its spindle. Abigail closed her notes. Robert was right. About what? Jasmine asked. The fire wasn't the whole story. Jasmine looked at the blank screen. Robert had protected the reel, yet he hadn't arranged its future beyond giving the camera and its contents to her. Perhaps he had run out of time. Perhaps he believed the work would tell her what came next. What would the center do with it? She asked. Preserve a master copy, build a catalog, exhibit it with context from the people shown, make it available for educational screenings under controlled terms. Would you sell clips? Not without license terms allowing it. I don't want rescue footage cut into something that makes people look helpless. Then don't grant that right. Would the center accept limits? If the license is still useful. Jasmine turned the catalog notebook toward Abigail. I want names before wide exhibition. I want the rebuilding footage kept with the fire footage. Nobody uses the flames without the kitchen. Abigail considered that. She did not smile or tell Jasmine it was a beautiful idea. That restriction is workable, she said. It will increase cataloging costs. Then include them. You're negotiating before I've made an offer. I'm telling you what isn't available. Isaac began removing the film from the viewer. That is usually the useful part of negotiating. Abigail opened her hard case and took out a folder. The center has an acquisition fund for unique regional material. As director, I can make a conditional licensing offer within that fund. How conditional? We authenticate the film. You prove ownership of the reel and Robert's image rights. You agree to preservation and storage, a complete catalog, and reasonable access for the people shown. For how long? 10 years. And after that? The license ends unless both sides renew. You keep ownership throughout. Jasmine had expected a number large enough to cover what she had paid Isaac. Maybe enough to replace her tires and recover the missed wages. Abigail wrote on the first page and turned it around. The proposed fee was $96,000. Jasmine read it twice. What does the center receive for that? Exhibition rights under the agreed limits, a preservation copy, permission to use verified still frames for catalog and educational material, no transfer of ownership. Is this because it's the only footage? It is the only continuous close-moving record we know of from that road. It also documents the return to the community center. That combination has public value. Why so much? Because 10 years is a long license, preservation is expensive, and exclusivity within the agreed exhibition field matters. The center also expects partner institutions to show it. Jasmine touched the edge of the page, not the figure. What do I have to spend? Archival storage, insurance after delivery, catalog work if the center's staff can't complete it. You may need professional copying of the decree. Can I use some of the payment for those? Once the agreement is signed. Before that, they're your responsibility. The offer could remove her immediate danger. It did not arrive as free money. It arrived with a list of duties and no guarantee that Melissa's challenge would fail. Abigail wrote the conditions in plain language. Isaac would authenticate the reel and camera. The center would review the certified decree. Jasmine would preserve the original and assist with identifying the people filmed. The final agreement would include her restriction against separating the rebuilding sequence from the fire context. Abigail signed the proposal and gave it to her. This is not the license, she said. It's an offer subject to verification. When do you need an answer? Within 30 days. The fund closes its current acquisition period after that. There was the first deadline Jasmine couldn't solve by waiting for family calm. On Monday morning, she went to the probate office. She requested a certified copy of the decree and the signed assignment Robert had completed the previous year. The clerk told her it would take several business days to prepare. Jasmine paid the copying fee and took the receipt. Then she sat on a bench outside the building and called Melissa. Her aunt answered on the second ring. Did the office clarify the wording? Melissa asked. I requested a certified copy. That doesn't answer my question. The film was developed. Melissa became silent. It contains Robert's wildfire footage, Jasmine continued. Abigail's center made a conditional license offer. How much? Jasmine told her. A car passed along the street. Melissa did not speak until it was gone. That can't be right. It's in writing. You processed disputed property against my request, and now you're discussing money with an outside center? The offer depends on the decree and authentication. I'm sending you a copy so you know exactly what it says. Don't send Cody anything yet. I'm sending it to both of you. Why? Because I'm not asking either of you for permission, and I'm not hiding the terms. Melissa's voice tightened. You think that makes this cleaner? I think it makes my position clear. Jasmine emailed the conditional offer before ending the call. She copied Cody, attached Abigail's handling summary, and stated that the original reel would remain secured with Isaac until authentication. The reply from Cody came 4 minutes later. It contained only one sentence. Robert's news footage belongs with the business equipment I inherited, and I'm not letting you license it until that is resolved. A second message arrived while Jasmine was still reading the first. Cody had copied Abigail and Melissa. Attached was the estate inventory page listing the digital cameras, scanner, lenses, lights, and related business equipment he had received. He wrote that Robert's professional work product followed those assets. The inventory didn't say that. Jasmine read it 3 times to be sure. It named physical equipment and serial numbers. It did not mention film, image rights, or work product. Still, Cody had created a dispute the center couldn't ignore. Abigail called within 10 minutes. I received his claim, she said. It isn't supported by the inventory, I can see that. Then why does it matter? Because he is asserting ownership in writing. The decree gives me the camera and its contents. I know what your copy says. The center still needs the certified version and the original assignment. They're being prepared. Until we review them, I have to pause the license process. Jasmine stood from the bench and walked toward her car. Does the 30-day deadline pause too? No, that makes no sense. It makes institutional sense. The fun period closes whether your family agrees or not. So, Cody sends one email and the offer becomes useless. Not useless, conditional. You already knew the family objected. I knew Melissa requested a new appraisal. A direct ownership claim is different. Jasmine stopped beside her car. What happens if the documents support me? Then we authenticate the reel and proceed. And if they don't, the center withdraws. Abigail gave her the answer without softening it. Jasmine appreciated that, though she didn't like it. Don't send the original anywhere, Abigail added. Keep it with Isaac. I wasn't going to move it. Good. Cody also asked whether he could inspect the reel at his office. He can't. I told him all handling requests go through the documented owner. Right now, that word is the problem. Jasmine ended the call and returned to the probate building. The clerk at the counter recognized her receipt. I need the certified copy as soon as possible, Jasmine said. It's in the queue. There's a licensing deadline. The clerk checked the request date. I can note that. Will that make it faster? It may help the person preparing it understand the urgency. It was not a promise, and Jasmine knew better than to turn it into one. Can I inspect the file while I wait? You can inspect the public portion here. The clerk brought a folder to a reading table. Jasmine sat beneath fluorescent lights and read every page. Robert's assignment was listed as an exhibit. The decree quoted its main language. The camera's serial number matched Isaac's photographs. The inventory transferring equipment to Cody listed different serial numbers. Jasmine copied those pages by hand. The information was useful, but handwritten notes would not satisfy Abigail. Cody had understood that when he sent his objection. He didn't need to prove his claim immediately. He only needed to keep Jasmine from completing hers. At noon, Melissa called and asked her to meet at Robert's house. The closing walkthrough is tomorrow, she said. This is our last chance to talk there. We can talk on the phone. Cody has the original equipment inventory. I've read it. He thinks you're dismissing him without listening. I listened when he offered to control distribution. That was before we knew the amount. That doesn't improve the offer. Melissa's voice became quieter. Come at 3. Please. Jasmine agreed because the house still had a hold on her. Not because Melissa's argument did. She knew the difference now. At 3, the rooms were empty. The clean-out crew had removed the desk, Robert's bed, the lamp repaired with speaker wire, and every box Jasmine hadn't carried away. Only dust and furniture marks remained. Melissa stood at the kitchen counter with the house keys beside her. Cody had placed the equipment inventory between them. Jasmine remained near the doorway. You said you wanted to talk. Melissa touched the keys. I don't want our last memory in this house to be an argument. Then don't make it one. Cody pushed the inventory toward Jasmine. Read the category heading. Professional equipment. And associated assets. Then it lists the assets. It isn't exhaustive. Every item has a serial number, because those were the items worth listing separately. The camera also has a serial number. It went to me. The footage is professional work product. The assignment says image rights. We haven't seen the certified assignment, Cody said. Neither have you. That's why I told the center to wait. You told them the footage was yours. I said my claim had to be resolved. You said it belonged with your equipment. It does. Jasmine looked at Melissa. Do you believe that? Melissa pulled out a chair, then seemed to remember the table was gone. She remained standing. I believe Dad's estate wasn't valued with this information. The appraiser said content was separate. He said unseen content couldn't be valued, and he said he doesn't interpret rights. Exactly. So, we need an agreement. What agreement? Melissa glanced at Cody. They had discussed this before Jasmine arrived. The license money could be divided, she said. You would keep the original camera. Cody could handle the digital master through his business. I would withdraw my request for further review. There was no anger in her voice. That made the proposal more revealing. Melissa had stopped wanting the camera returned to the estate. She wanted cash from what it contained. How would you divide it? Jasmine asked. 3 equal portions after expenses. Why thirds? 1 for each family interest. There aren't 3 family interests in the decree. Cody shook his head. This is why nobody can talk to you. You make everything about the exact words. Exact words are why you received the newer equipment. I'm offering expertise, you're claiming ownership, because you refused a partnership. The claim came after I refused. It came after I learned professional footage existed. Melissa raised one hand. We can argue sequence all day. The point is to keep this from becoming ugly. It already became ugly when you asked for 1/3 of something you called unidentified film on Friday. That was before a public center offered nearly $100,000. The people on the film didn't become more important when Abigail wrote a number. Melissa looked toward the empty place where Robert's kitchen table once stood. This house sold for less than Dad could have gotten if he'd maintained it properly, she said. His savings barely covered everything. I spent a year managing bills and appointments. Then one piece of film appears, and you receive more than the rest of the estate held in cash. There it was, not greed exactly. Melissa had turned care into an account because accounts made disappointment manageable. She believed effort should be visible in the distribution. Jasmine understood that feeling too well. You did work for him, Jasmine said. I'm not denying it. Then be fair. Fair would have been talking about care while he was alive, not charging it against his footage now. Melissa's eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Easy for you to say. He let you be the one who sat with him. I got the passwords and the overdue notices. You could have sat with him. He asked for you. And you decided that meant I wanted every hour. Cody stepped between the conversation and the thing it was becoming. This isn't about old feelings. It's an asset dispute. It's both, Jasmine said. He tapped the inventory. If you proceed without resolving my claim, I'll keep notifying every institution you approach. You'll make the footage unusable. I'll protect what I inherited. You inherited cameras, Cody, not Grandpa's eyes. The sentence left him silent. Jasmine regretted its sharpness, but not enough to withdraw it. Melissa picked up the keys. If you reject the split, I can't support your position with the probate office. I didn't ask you to. You may wish you had. I may. The answer surprised all 3 of them. Jasmine had come to the empty house still believing there might be a careful sentence that let her keep the film without losing what remained of the family. No such sentence existed. Melissa wanted compensation. Cody wanted control. Giving either one what they asked would make the license easier and the stewardship weaker. I won't divide ownership, Jasmine said. I won't give Cody distribution rights. When the film is secure and the people are identified, I'll arrange personal viewing access for both of you. That is what I'm offering. Viewing access? Cody repeated. Like we're guests? Like your family without being owners? Melissa's face closed. Then we're done, she said. She locked the front door after they stepped outside. Jasmine heard the deadbolt turn from the porch. Melissa gave the keys to the real estate agent's lockbox and walked to her car without saying goodbye. For the first time since Jasmine was 18, she had no reason to expect she would ever enter that house again. She drove to Isaac's shop. The original reel rested in a vented archival can inside his locked cabinet. The repaired camera stood beside it. Isaac listened while she explained Cody's claim and the center's pause. Authentication won't resolve family feelings, he said. I'm not trying to resolve those now. What are you trying to resolve? Whether the film and the camera prove what Robert did. Whether the decree proves what he gave me. That will require a full inspection. Do it. Abigail will need to witness it. Call her. Isaac folded his arms. You have not asked what it costs. Jasmine did. The fee-covered edge code examination, frame continuity, camera gate comparison, a written report, and preparation for a witness screening. It was more than she had left after rent. I can't pay all of that today, she said. Then don't authorize it today. If I wait, the fund closes. That is Abigail's deadline, not mine. It becomes mine if I want the film preserved properly. Isaac looked toward the cabinet. You could take the reel home and wait for a cheaper path. That would leave it in my apartment above a laundromat. Yes. And Cody would keep sending claims wherever I took it. Yes. Jasmine opened her banking application. Her paycheck from the previous week had arrived. It was smaller because of the missed shift. After paying Isaac's deposit, she would have rent and almost nothing beyond it. She transferred the money. Isaac's phone sounded with the payment notice. You understand this may prove only that the reel ran through Robert's camera, he said. That is what I'm paying you to prove. And if the certified decree fails, then I deal with what it actually says. And if the center withdraws, I still catalog the people and preserve the reel. That was the price she could choose openly. The footage would require work even if it never paid her. It would keep costing money, time, and family peace. The one thing that gave her leverage also gave her duties. She couldn't sell away. Isaac removed the reel can from the cabinet and placed it beside the camera. I'll call Abigail, he said. Jasmine took Robert's catalog notebook from her bag and opened to a clean page. Tell her we continue, she said, whether Cody objects or not. The clerk called the next morning and said the certified packet was ready. Jasmine reached the probate office before noon. The packet contained the decree, the equipment schedules, and Robert's signed assignment from the previous year. A raised seal marked each certified page. The clerk asked Jasmine to compare the camera's serial number with the assignment. It matches, Jasmine said. Check every digit. Jasmine read them one by one. The number matched Isaac's photographs and the plate on the camera. The assignment named the camera first. The next sentence transferred everything contained inside it at the time of Robert's death. The final sentence granted Jasmine Roberts associated rights in any photographs or motion images created with that camera. The words were more complete than the paragraph Melissa had carried to the appraisal. There was no reference to Cody's equipment or any business. Robert had signed the document in the clerk's presence, and 2 witnesses had signed beneath him. Does this settle the objection? Jasmine asked. The clerk kept her hands on the counter. I certify the record. I don't decide disputes for family members. Was this assignment accepted into the decree? Yes. Was anyone notified? The estate parties received the filed schedules, so Melissa and Cody had this page. They received access to the filing. I can't tell you what either person read. The answer was useful because it left responsibility where it belonged. The clerk had not found a hidden rule or changed the estate. She had provided the record Robert created. Jasmine paid for 2 additional certified copies. Outside, she sat in her car and read the assignment again. Until that moment, some part of her had expected a missing phrase or a broad sentence Cody could stretch around his claim. The certified version removed that uncertainty. Robert had not accidentally left her whatever happened to be in an old case. He had named the contents and the image rights while he was alive. Jasmine sent a scanned copy to Abigail, Isaac, Melissa, and Cody. She wrote only, "This is the certified record. Authentication of the reel continues," Melissa replied first. I didn't have the full exhibit. Jasmine read the sentence without deciding whether she believed it. Cody called. Did you know that language was there? He asked. I knew the decree's wording, not the separate assignment. Grandpa showed it to me last year. And you never told us? You didn't ask what he gave me until the camera mattered to you. That document doesn't prove the film was shot with that camera. No, Isaac's examination does that. If he's working for you, his opinion isn't independent. He maintained the camera before I owned it. He's also taking your money. So did the appraiser. Cody exhaled sharply. You have an answer for everything now. I have documents for some things. That's different. What if I withdraw my claim? Jasmine waited. What would you want? She asked. Credit for my equipment and help creating the digital master. The center doesn't need your equipment. That isn't the point. What is? Cody was quiet long enough for the answer to become plain. He wanted his name attached to Robert's last important work. Money mattered, but not as much as being seen beside it. I built a media company, he said. You work at a print shop. I know where I work. You're acting like I have nothing to contribute. You offered control before contribution. I can change the terms. I don't need new terms. So you're cutting me out because you can. I'm not giving you ownership. That isn't the same as cutting you out. It will feel the same. Jasmine looked at the certified assignment on the passenger seat. Using it would close the uncertainty Cody had used to remain involved. Once she proceeded, their relationship could no longer rest on the idea that control was still negotiable. I'll invite you to the full screening, she said. You'll see the film before the license is signed. As what? An observer? As Robert's grandson. That's not enough. It's what I'm offering. Cody ended the call without saying goodbye. At Isaac's shop, the camera had been placed beneath a magnifying lamp. The reel occupied a film bench several feet away. Abigail had brought the center's edge code guide, a calibrated viewer, and a blank authentication form. She read the certified assignment first. This removes the center's ownership condition, she said. Cody still objects. He can object. The question is whether he has a record supporting the claim. He doesn't. Then I'll note the objection and the document that answers it. Don't quote his emails in the catalog. Abigail looked up. They wouldn't belong in the public catalog. What about the center's announcement? There is no announcement yet. When there is, I don't want this presented as a family fight. The dispute affected acquisition. It may need to remain in the internal file. Keep the necessary record. Don't use it to make the story more interesting. Abigail capped her pen. You understand that public attention could increase the footage's value. I understand. And you're refusing that angle. The volunteers are the story. Cody and Melissa aren't. It would have been easy to let the center describe how relatives dismissed the camera and challenged Jasmine once money appeared. Every sentence could be documented. People would know who had been wrong, and Jasmine would never have to raise her voice. She did not want Robert's footage carrying her family's humiliation beside it. Isaac switched on the magnifying lamp. We begin with the stock, he said. He positioned the film so the edge markings were visible. Abigail compared the manufacturer's symbols and production marks with her guide. The code matched film made during the period Robert purchased the reel. That establishes age, Jasmine said. And type, Isaac replied. Not camera. He advanced the film slowly. Numbered edge marks followed in sequence. There were no missing sections within the exposed footage and no cement joins. The leader has 2 old splices, he said. The photograph section is continuous. Could anyone have combined footage without leaving a splice? Jasmine asked. Not on this reel. Abigail recorded the edge numbers at the beginning, middle, and end. Isaac then opened the camera's empty chamber. He removed the pressure plate and gate, placing each part on white cloth. Through the magnifier, Jasmine saw 2 tiny marks near the lower edge of the gate. One is ordinary wear, he said. This nick is not. He pointed to a shallow flaw in the metal. It was smaller than a grain of rice. A nick scratches film? Jasmine asked. If the emulsion passes against it. He mounted several sections of the reel on the viewer. A faint vertical line appeared in the same position across the frames. Near the bottom, it shifted at a small angle. Isaac placed a clear test strip through Robert's camera and ran the restored transport for a few seconds. When he removed the strip, the same line appeared. Abigail compared the measurements. Position matches, she said. Isaac did not respond. He repeated the test with a second strip, cleaned the gate, and ran it again. The angled mark remained. That is the camera's gate signature, he said. The reel passed through this camera. Could another camera make the same mark? Jasmine asked. Another camera could scratch film. It would not produce both marks at these positions, with this angle and spacing. He moved to the footage counter mechanism. Its wear pattern matched the number of feet exposed on the reel within a small margin. Robert's service note established that the chamber had remained sealed after he returned from the fire. The preserved wax showed no later opening before Isaac's documented development. Each fact supported the same line. None created a second answer. Abigail signed as witness. Isaac signed as technician and authenticator. Jasmine signed the handling record. The reel is verified, Abigail said. The footage is continuous, the stock date is consistent, and the gate marks tie it to Robert's camera. Jasmine looked at Isaac. Any uncertainty left? Plenty. About origin. Not a useful one. That was as close as Isaac came to certainty. Abigail took a license packet from her case. The payment amount and 10-year term matched the conditional offer. Added pages described storage temperature, insurance, catalog standards, and the requirement that the fire and reopening sequences remain together when shown. The center can sign after a witnessed screening, she said. Why another screening? To establish the complete approved exhibition sequence and give you one final chance to refuse. I've seen it. You saw an inspection viewing. The license sequence will be projected at proper speed. Can Melissa and Cody attend? If you want them there. Will their presence delay the agreement? Not unless you let it. Jasmine chose the center's small screening room for Thursday evening. Abigail would bring the license and the center's transfer authorization. Isaac would present the authentication. The certified decree would remain on the table throughout. Jasmine sent Melissa and Cody the time, location, and terms. This is personal viewing access before execution, she wrote. Attendance does not create ownership or approval rights. The license will proceed if the evidence satisfies the center. Melissa called immediately. You're going to sign in front of us? I'm going to show you the film before I sign. That sounds like a performance. It's a screening. You could sign privately. Yes. Then why invite us? Because Grandpa was your father and Cody's grandfather. Melissa's voice lowered. If you use that document to shut us out in the same room, don't expect the family to return to normal afterward. Jasmine looked through the glass partition at Robert's reel on the bench. Normal had required her to remain useful, agreeable, and uncertain of her place. There was no way to preserve that arrangement and protect the film. I don't expect that, she said. On Thursday, Jasmine arrived before everyone else. She placed the certified decree at one end of the screening room table and the catalog notebook beside it. Isaac mounted the verified reel on the projector. Abigail set 2 unsigned copies of the license beneath the reading lamp. Jasmine left the chairs for Melissa and Cody side by side. Then she placed Robert's restored camera at the front of the room, where they would all have to see what he had chosen before anyone spoke about what it was worth. Melissa arrived first. She wore the same dark coat she had worn to Robert's funeral. She paused beside the restored camera, but did not touch it. You cleaned the case, she said. Isaac repaired the buckle. It looks like Dad's again. Before Jasmine could answer, Cody entered carrying a document folder and his laptop bag. He looked around the small screening room. Is anyone else coming? No, Abigail said. This is a closed review. Can I record it? No. I want a record of what's said. Isaac's authentication is written. The decree is certified. The license will be copied to every signing party. I'm not a signing party? No. Cody placed his folder on the table. Then nothing gets signed until my objection is addressed. It will be addressed, Abigail said. Melissa chose a chair in the second row. Cody remained standing beside the table. A draft display card lay near Abigail's license packet. Jasmine hadn't noticed it earlier. Someone at the center had written a possible promotional line across the top. Jasmine picked it up. What is this? A draft outreach caption, Abigail said. It isn't approved. It makes the film about what my family gave me. It was meant to explain how the reel surfaced. The catalog can explain that. The public title should explain what the film shows. What do you want it called? Jasmine turned the card over and wrote on the blank side. Robert Bowman, East Road Fire and Recovery. She handed it back. Use the year in the catalog, she said. Use the people's names as we confirm them. Abigail crossed out the earlier line. Cody watched the exchange. You're already naming an exhibit before ownership is settled. The assignment settled ownership, Jasmine said. It settled the camera. And its contents. You keep leaving out the context. Grandpa separated old personal equipment from the professional equipment. I inherited the professional category. Isaac took his place beside the projector. This camera was professional equipment, he said. Then it should have been on my schedule. It was on Jasmine's. That is the inconsistency. No, Jasmine said. That is the part you don't like. Cody opened his folder and removed the equipment inventory. Robert spent his life recording news. Those images were work product. His scanner, modern cameras, and editing equipment came to me because I run a media company. An undeveloped professional reel should follow the same purpose. He spoke with more confidence than he had at the empty house. He had reduced his argument to a version that sounded orderly. Robert's useful work went to the family member with a useful business. Jasmine received the old object because it was personal and cheap. Anything valuable inside had to be a mistake. Melissa placed both hands in her lap. I'm not claiming Cody's wording is perfect, she said, but none of us knew the reel existed when the estate was divided. Dad may have signed a broad assignment without remembering what was inside. He signed it after filming the fire, Jasmine said. He was 80. He knew which camera he named. He forgot things. He forgot where he put his glasses. He didn't forget a reel he sealed twice. Melissa's mouth tightened. Then why didn't he tell any of us? He tried to tell me with the assignment. I didn't understand. That isn't an explanation. No, it's a fact. Cody turned toward Abigail. Even if Jasmine owns the physical reel, the center can't ignore the professional rights tied to the equipment I inherited. Abigail opened the certified packet. The center does not assign rights based on which relative owns the newest scanner. That isn't what I said. It is the practical result of what you said. I'm asking you to delay until an independent person reviews it. The probate record is independent of the center. Isaac's authentication can be examined by another technician. The license remains conditional until both satisfy our standards. You're using her technician. I'm using Robert's technician. Cody looked toward Isaac. You were his friend. Yes. You want Jasmine to win? Isaac adjusted the projector focus. I want the measurements to remain the same when someone repeats them. Cody returned to the inventory. The business assets in this reel came from the same professional activity. That's my position. And mine, Melissa said, though her voice lacked his certainty. If the footage creates income, the estate should receive it and distribute it fairly. They had committed fully now. Cody's claim depended on purpose. Melissa's depended on value, changing what Robert had written. Both versions required the camera's contents to become less specific than the assignment. Jasmine sat at the table. I'm not asking either of you to agree with me, she said. You asked to see the evidence. You're going to see it. Isaac dimmed the lights but left the projector off. He placed enlarged photographs of the reel's edge on the screen. The first showed the manufacturer's code. The second showed the uninterrupted sequence of edge numbers. This identifies the stock and production period, he said. The exposed footage contains no joins. The sequence is continuous from the first photographed frame through the last. He showed the magnified gate marks next. 2 narrow scratches ran along the edge of the image. One shifted at a slight angle near the bottom. Isaac placed a test strip beside it. This strip was run through Robert's restored camera during authentication. The scratches match in position, spacing, and angle. Cody leaned forward. Cameras scratch film. That isn't unique. Damage patterns are unique enough to compare. I ran the test twice. Both matched the original reel. Could the film have been loaded later? The sealed chamber, footage counter, Robert's maintenance instruction, and continuous winding pattern show it remained in the camera after exposure. You can't prove who pressed the release. Isaac nodded. The film can? He turned on the projector. The room darkened and the first image appeared. Wind bent the grass beside the east road. Smoke moved across the frame. A volunteer truck passed close enough for its side number to be visible. Robert's camera followed without shaking. No one spoke. The fire sequence unfolded at proper speed. Volunteers carried water toward the community center. Adults moved through smoke toward waiting vehicles. One person stumbled, and 2 others supported him without stopping. Robert walked beside them, close enough that his breathing had probably been louder than the camera. Melissa covered her mouth with one hand. Jasmine had seen the footage on the inspection viewer, but projection changed it. The people were no longer small images beneath a magnifier. Their decisions filled the wall. Robert kept the camera away from anyone who turned aside. When a volunteer nodded, he returned to the face. When people needed the road, he moved. Cody lowered his inventory page. The damaged community center came into view. Volunteers carried food, water, and folding tables outside. Smoke swallowed the frame for several seconds. Robert stayed with the shot until the last vehicle left. Then the reel moved into morning. The same building stood beneath a pale sky. Its siding was blackened. One window was broken. Adults approached carrying brooms, plywood, boxes, and a metal coffee urn. Inside, they swept water and soot from the floor. They covered the broken window. They set out bread, canned food, cups, and coffee. Robert filmed the kitchen opening. He held the final shot as people came through the door and accepted something warm to drink. The room on the screen was damaged, crowded, and useful. The film ended in white light. Isaac stopped the projector. Melissa kept her hand near her mouth. Cody stared at the empty screen. He went back, Melissa said. Yes, Abigail replied. He never told me. He didn't tell me either, Jasmine said. Cody looked at the camera on its stand. His claim had not disappeared from his mind, but it no longer felt like professional inventory. He had watched Robert make choices inside every frame. The old camera wasn't a container that happened to hold a valuable reel. It was the instrument Robert had carried into smoke, maintained, sealed, and later named in the assignment. Abigail switched on the table lamp. Isaac signed the final page of his report. The reel is Robert Bowman's continuous exposure from the restored camera bearing the listed serial number. He passed the report to Cody. Read the measurements if you want. Cody did not take it. Jasmine opened the certified packet to Robert's assignment. The camera number is here, she said. The contents are here. The image rights are here. He signed this the year after the fire. Melissa read the page. Her eyes stopped on Robert's signature. He knew, she said. It wasn't an apology. It was the belief change the evidence required. Cody finally took Isaac's report. He compared the serial number with Jasmine's schedule and his own inventory. His equipment numbers were different. My scanner was used for his professional work, he said. Quieter now. That doesn't make the images yours, Abigail replied. Cody closed the folder. Abigail turned to Jasmine. The center accepts the authentication and certified ownership record. The 10-year exhibition license is ready under the conditions we reviewed. She placed both copies before Jasmine. The fee was written plainly, $96,000. The following pages required archival storage, preservation insurance, cataloging of the people filmed, and access for those people to view the record. The fire sequence could not be separated from the reopening footage in any center exhibition. Jasmine read the restrictions again. Melissa watched her. You're really doing this now? Yes. What happens to the original? It stays mine. It goes into proper storage. And the camera? I keep it working. Cody looked at the signature line. If you sign, my company has no role, not unless the center later hires you for work, under terms I approve. That isn't likely after this. No, Jasmine said. It isn't. She signed both copies. Abigail signed beneath her. Then she completed the transfer authorization for the full license payment to Jasmine after the center received the archival reel. No judge entered the room. No clerk chose between relatives. Robert's assignment had already made the choice. Isaac's measurements proved that the reel was the one preserved inside Robert's camera. Abigail acted on those established facts. The mechanism that had seemed seized and worthless now carried a verified record, clear ownership, and enforceable duties. Abigail handed Jasmine the executed license. The center will begin preservation intake tomorrow. Melissa stood. So that's it? For ownership, Jasmine said. Yes. And for us? Jasmine looked at the two empty chairs, the stop projector, and Robert's camera facing the blank wall. No, she said. That part still has to be decided. Melissa picked up her handbag, but did not leave. What do you mean? She asked. I mean, ownership is settled. Family isn't. You made your decision, yes. So, what is left for us to decide? How we speak to each other after this, whether you can visit without asking for money, whether Cody can see the film without treating access as control. Cody put Isaac's report back on the table. I'm not going to ask permission every time Grandpa's work is mentioned. You don't need permission to mention him, but I need permission to use an image. Yes. He was my grandfather too, and that gives you a relationship, not a license. Cody shook his head. You've learned that word quickly. I had to. He packed his inventory and laptop. He did not apologize for delaying the center or claiming the reel. In his mind, he had made a reasonable attempt to connect Robert's work with the equipment he inherited. The evidence had defeated his claim, but it had not convinced him the attempt was selfish. At the door, he looked back at the camera. Send me the personal viewing terms, he said. No recording and no copying. I heard you. Then I will. That was the only agreement they could manage. After Cody left, Melissa remained in the second row. You could give us something, she said. I offered access. I'm not talking about access. Jasmine placed the signed license inside a folder. How much do you want? Melissa flinched at the direct question. It isn't about a number. Then what is it about? Being recognized. For managing Grandpa's bills? For being his daughter? Jasmine sat beside her. The license payment doesn't measure that. It will pay for your life. It pays for 10 years of rights and a list of obligations. It's still money you didn't have yesterday. Yes. Melissa looked at the blank screen. Your grandfather and I could never talk without him turning everything into a practical problem. If I told him I was worried, he checked my tires. If I was angry, he brought groceries. He did that to me too. He let you find it charming. I didn't always. Melissa folded her hands. I handled the parts of his life he hated. Then he gave you the part people will remember. There was truth in that, though it did not create ownership. I can credit your work in his personal history, Jasmine said. If you help with dates and records, your contribution belongs there. I don't want a line in a catalog. Then tell me what action you want that isn't money or control. Melissa had no answer ready. Jasmine stood. I won't give you part of the license because you challenged me, she said. I also won't pretend you did nothing for him. Both can be true. Melissa nodded once, more to end the conversation than to accept it. I need time, she said. So do I. She left without a hug. The next morning, the film center accepted the reel into temporary climate-controlled storage. Abigail checked the can, handling record and insurance papers before signing the intake receipt. This storage is covered during preparation of the preservation master, she said. After that, the original needs an approved long-term location. How long do I have? Several months under this intake. Don't use all of them. The payment arrived that afternoon. Jasmine sat at her kitchen table and watched the bank balance change. For several minutes, she did nothing. Then she paid Isaac's outstanding fee. She paid her rent, ordered the front tires she had delayed, and opened a separate account for taxes and preservation expenses. The amount left was still more money than she had ever controlled. It did not feel like freedom yet. It felt like a room full of labeled boxes. The print shop kept her off the schedule for the following week. Her supervisor met her beside the cutting machine. The missed shift put me in a bad position, he said. I understand. I can give you 2 evenings the week after next. I'll take them. I heard something about your grandfather's film. From whom? Cody posted that a family archive was under review. Jasmine looked toward the machine. It isn't under review now. Did you inherit something valuable? Yes. Her supervisor waited for more. She did not provide it. Are you leaving? He asked. Not today. She worked the 2 later shifts when they came. The license payment did not restore trust at the print shop, and Jasmine didn't use it as an excuse to disappear. She arrived early, completed every order, and wrote down her hours. 3 days after the screening, Abigail called her to the center. She had spread maps and property listings across a work table. Before you choose storage, decide what kind of keeper you intend to be, she said. I intend to be a reliable one. That isn't what I asked. Abigail showed her the annual costs for commercial archival storage. Jasmine could pay them from the license, but storage alone would place the reel somewhere safe and inaccessible to the community it documented. The center can exhibit it, Jasmine said. For 10 years, your responsibilities continue after our license. What are the other options? Build local capacity. With what building? Abigail slid one property sheet toward her. The address was 214 Merchant Street. Jasmine recognized it before she saw the photograph. Robert used to point at the narrow brick building whenever they passed downtown. That was his newsroom, she said. For 11 years, Abigail replied. The station used the ground floor. Robert kept the darkroom in back. There's an apartment upstairs. Who owns it? A private seller. It's been vacant long enough that the city requires stabilization before regular occupancy. The listing photograph showed boarded lower windows, a stained brick wall, and weeds along the alley. One upstairs window had been covered with plywood. It looks terrible, Jasmine said. It smells worse. Why are you showing it to me? Because it has a darkroom shell, thick interior walls, and enough ground floor space for a public archive. Also because you keep looking at the annual storage cost as if it should produce more than a locked shelf. Jasmine studied the floor plan. The building was not a gift from Robert. It was not hidden in the camera or attached to the decree. She would have to buy it in an ordinary sale, accept its faults, and make it useful. Can the upstairs apartment be occupied? She asked. Not now. What has to be stabilized? Roof leaks, rear masonry, electrical service, and the broken windows. The city gives a buyer 30 days after closing to complete those items. That's a lot in 30 days. Yes. Would the license cover it? The purchase and basic stabilization, likely. Full restoration will take more work and more time. Jasmine called Isaac. He met them at Merchant Street that afternoon. The real estate agent unlocked the front door, warned them about soft flooring near the back wall, and stayed outside. The old newsroom smelled of wet plaster and dust. Afternoon light entered through gaps around the boards. A long counter remained along one wall. Behind it stood an open room where desks had once faced each other. Electrical outlets ran through metal channels in the floor. The ceiling had peeled near the rear, but the front half was dry. Isaac pressed a screwdriver into one window frame. "Rotten here," he said. "Solid below." "You sound disappointed." "I don't enjoy finding expensive problems." The darkroom still had its light trap, though part of the inner wall had been removed. A deep porcelain sink rested beneath rusted pipes. Robert had once watched film there, while reporters called questions from the other room. Jasmine opened a narrow cabinet. Inside were empty wooden dividers and one strip of masking tape bearing Robert's handwriting. Clean trays before going home. It was not a clue or a valuable discovery. It was an ordinary instruction left from a working day long before Jasmine knew the building existed. Isaac read it over her shoulder. He wrote that after everyone else left dirty trays, he said. Did they listen? Not often. Upstairs, the apartment had 2 rooms, a small kitchen, and a bathroom with a cracked sink. Rain stains spread across one bedroom wall. The plywood-covered window faced west over Merchant Street. Jasmine stood where the window would be. Her apartment above the laundromat had never felt permanent. Robert's house had felt like home, but only because Robert was in it. The empty rooms at Merchant Street promised nothing. That honesty appealed to her. "What would you do first?" she asked Isaac. "Tarp the roof before the next storm, brace the rear wall, restore power safely, replace enough glass to keep weather out. In 30 days, with people who show up when they say they will. Can you help? I have a shop to run. I know. I can give you mornings and Sundays. I won't manage the project. I didn't ask you to." He looked at her, then nodded. Their relationship worked best when each person carried a defined part. Abigail stood near the stairwell. "If you buy it, the center can advise on archive requirements," she said. "We do not fund the building, and we don't run it. I know. You'll need public hours if you want community use. I know. You say that very confidently for someone standing under a leaking roof." Jasmine looked around the upstairs room. "I can learn the things I don't know." The sale took 12 days. Jasmine paid for an inspection, negotiated a lower price because of the rear masonry, and signed the purchase papers without using all the license money. The deed carried no surprise. It gave her a damaged building and every visible problem inside it. Cody sent the center a short withdrawal of his ownership objection the day before closing. He copied Jasmine but included no apology. Melissa did not contact her. On the morning Jasmine received the keys, a city notice was attached to the front window. It listed the stabilization work and the deadline 30 days away. She unlocked the door at 214 Merchant Street. Rainwater had collected in a bucket beneath the back ceiling, and loose plaster covered the darkroom floor. Isaac arrived carrying a pry bar and 2 work lights. Abigail came 10 minutes later, with archive plans rolled beneath one arm. Jasmine switched on the temporary power. One work light flickered, went dark, then returned. "First circuit needs attention," Isaac said. Jasmine picked up a broom. "Then we start with the second one." The second work light stayed on. Jasmine swept plaster into a heavy bag, while Isaac removed the failed outlet. Abigail unrolled her plans across the old newsroom counter and held down the corners with paint cans. "The archive room needs stable temperature and no direct sunlight," she said. "That puts it in back," Jasmine replied. "After the roof is dry, the roof is first. The electrical service is first," Isaac said. Jasmine leaned on the broom. "Which one keeps us from being condemned?" "All of them." By noon, they had cleared a path from the front door to the darkroom. Jasmine marked damaged floorboards with orange tape. Isaac restored one safe circuit for lights and tools. Abigail measured the back room, then rejected it because moisture had entered the masonry. She moved the proposed archive to an interior room behind the old assignment desk. That change required a new wall, ventilation, and a stronger door. Every practical win exposed another cost. Jasmine wrote each one on a sheet of plywood near the entrance. The first week went to stopping water. A roofing crew repaired the worst section, while Jasmine and Isaac stripped damaged plaster below. Rain came 2 days later. They stood in the newsroom and watched the ceiling. One drop fell into the old bucket, then another. Jasmine looked at Isaac. "That's not dry." "No!" She called the roofer instead of convincing herself it was close enough. The crew returned the next morning and repaired a failed seam without charging her again. The following rain stayed outside. Isaac crossed roof leak from the plywood list. The rear masonry took longer. Loose mortar had to be removed by hand. Jasmine spent 3 mornings carrying debris to a rented container. Her shoulders ached, and dust found its way inside every pocket. Isaac showed her how to mix a repair batch in amounts small enough to use before it hardened. More water would make this easier, she said. It would also make it weaker. That feels unfair. Buildings don't negotiate. They worked side by side until the rear wall passed inspection. Jasmine paid licensed professionals for the roof, electrical service, and structural work. She did the cleaning, painting, trim repair, and every task she could complete safely. The license money decreased in steady, explainable amounts. Abigail checked preservation purchases against the center's standards and rejected a cheap storage cabinet Jasmine found online. It says archival, Jasmine argued. It also says indoor decorative use. It has a lock. So does a suitcase. Jasmine bought the correct cabinet. On the 27th day, the replacement windows arrived. One pane had been measured incorrectly. The installer offered to board it and return the following week. The stabilization deadline was 3 days away. Jasmine took the city notice from the front window and showed him the date. I need weatherproof glass in that opening before Friday. I can't make this pane fit. What can you make fit? He found a plain commercial window at his warehouse. It lacked the divided pattern of the others, but it sealed the opening. Jasmine accepted the mismatch. Restoration could become beautiful later. Stabilization had to become complete now. The inspector returned on the 30th morning. He checked the rear wall, roof repairs, electrical panel, windows, and brace stair rail. He made Jasmine replace one missing junction box cover while he waited. Then he signed the notice and removed it from the glass. The building could remain occupied while restoration continued. Jasmine carried the signed form upstairs and taped it to the kitchen cabinet. Not because it was attractive, but because she wanted to remember what had actually been finished. The next phase moved more slowly. She repaired the upstairs apartment one room at a time. The cracked bathroom sink was replaced. The stained bedroom wall dried behind fresh plaster. She removed the plywood from the west window and stood in clear evening light for the first time. Downstairs, Isaac rebuilt the darkroom sink fittings. He refused payment for some Sunday hours, so Jasmine began leaving envelopes at his shop marked consultation. He complained, then deposited the checks. Their friendship stayed useful because neither pretended work had no value. Abigail helped design the catalog system. She brought copies of Wildfire records and sat with Jasmine beneath the restored newsroom lights. They matched vehicle numbers, clothing, road positions, and times. The center contacted adults who had worked on the East Road. Several came to private viewings. One woman recognized herself by the wet cloth she had held over her mouth. She watched the sequence twice. I thought he was filming the fire, she said. He filmed you leaving it, Jasmine replied. The woman pointed toward the final kitchen scene. That man by the plywood is my brother. The woman setting cups out ran the kitchen. Jasmine added their confirmed names to the catalog. Can the center show this part too? The woman asked. It has to. The license keeps the sequences together. Good. People remember the burning. They forget we opened again. That sentence went into the catalog interview with permission. By the time the preservation master was complete, most of the adults visible in the central scenes had been identified. Those who wanted copies received access through the center. Those who asked not to have close still images used in promotion had their requests recorded. Robert's reel moved into the approved archival cabinet at Merchant Street. The center kept the preservation master. Jasmine checked temperature and humidity each morning before making coffee. Melissa first visited on a Tuesday. She arrived with one cardboard file box and stood outside until Jasmine opened the door. I found these in my garage, she said. The box held Robert's bill records, appointment calendars, and station correspondence. Melissa had sorted them by year. Do you want money for them? Jasmine asked. Melissa looked hurt, then understood why the question was necessary. No. Do you want ownership credit? No. What do you want? To bring them in. Jasmine moved aside. Melissa walked through the newsroom without commenting on the paint or the new windows. In the archive room, she placed the box on the table. I marked the medical pages private, she said. They don't belong in a public catalog. I agree, and the unpaid bills? They can stay closed unless they explain his work. Melissa nodded. It was an action, not an apology. Jasmine accepted it as that. They spent an hour identifying dates on Robert's calendars. Melissa remembered which appointments he missed because of assignments. Jasmine remembered which assignments made him come home too tired to eat. When Melissa left, she asked, "Can I come back next week? If you're coming to work on the records." "I am." She returned the next week. Their relationship did not become easy. Melissa still believed the estate had favored Jasmine in the one way that mattered most. Jasmine still remembered being asked to divide the license before anyone asked what the footage showed. They worked within those facts. Cody waited longer. He scheduled a personal viewing, agreed in writing not to record it, then arrived 15 minutes late. He watched the film alone in the small screening area. Afterward, he stood beside Robert's camera. "You could display the newer equipment too," he said. "The camera that made the film belongs here. So does the scanner. The scanner belongs to you. I could lend it. Under a written equipment agreement. No distribution rights." Cody gave a tired smile. "You really do put everything in writing now." "Yes." He did not offer the scanner that day. A month later, he brought it to Merchant Street with a 1-year loan form he had drafted himself. The form included no ownership claim over scanned images. Jasmine corrected one sentence concerning access, and he accepted the change. He still did not apologize. She still gave him a key only for scheduled studio hours, not for the archive room. The camera became working equipment again. Isaac taught Jasmine how to load fresh film, check the gate, and listen for uneven transport. The first time she ran it, the mechanism sounded steady in the quiet newsroom. She began recording short interviews with adults whose ordinary work rarely reached local news. Abigail helped her build consent forms. Isaac maintained the equipment and argued with anyone who set coffee near the film bench. The front room opened 2 afternoons and 1 evening each week. People came to identify photographs, watch local footage, or bring boxes that had been sitting in closets. Jasmine accepted material only when she could care for it properly. Some weeks that meant saying no. Upstairs became home by degrees. A second-hand table went beneath the west window. Robert's notebook stayed in a kitchen drawer, not behind glass. Jasmine hung his old press photograph near the stairs after Cody gave her a copy. The original remained in Cody's office. On the first public anniversary screening, every chair was filled by adults from the community. Melissa worked at the check-in table. Cody operated the center's approved digital playback under Abigail's instructions. Neither received ownership. Both had a useful role with limits. Jasmine introduced the film with Robert's name, the road, and the date. She did not describe the estate fight. When the kitchen reopened on the screen, the woman who had identified her brother reached across the aisle and touched his arm. The audience remained quiet through the final frame. Afterward, people stayed for coffee in the restored darkroom, where clean trays rested beneath Robert's old instruction. Jasmine locked the original reel in its cabinet before going upstairs. If stories about young people rebuilding a life after family betrayal matter to you, subscribe and return for the next inheritance story. Late that evening, the last visitor left Merchant Street. Jasmine checked the archive temperature and turned off the downstairs lights. The newsroom settled into the soft sounds of cooling pipes and old brick. Upstairs, Melissa's labeled file box waited beside the catalog desk for Tuesday. Cody's scanner stood beneath its signed loan card. Neither object promised forgiveness. Both showed that the new boundaries had held through another use. Jasmine opened the west window a few inches. Warm light fell across the repaired sill and reached the sidewalk below. She heard a train beyond the dark buildings. On the street, the newsroom windows reflected the lamps inside. The place no longer looked vacant or forgotten. Its roof held, its walls were dry, and its doors would open again in the morning. The restored camera stood on its tripod beside the warm upstairs window of Jasmine's home.